Hey truckers, today we're seeing villain tricks heroines into hating the MC Part 3. Lin Feng was sent crashing to the ground, writhing in pain from the blow. It didn't take long before his life came to an end. Wang Jian stood over him with a triumphant smirk on his face, pleased with the outcome of the battle. As he reached down to pick up the 9 heavenly lightning sword, he felt a sudden jolt of electricity coursing through his body, causing him to recoil in surprise. The sword glowed with ethereal light as if imbued with a sacred power that repelled Wang Jian's touch. In a sudden burst of energy, the sword transformed into a streak of golden lightning, darting out of the lair at breakneck speed. Wang Jian could only watch in shock as the sword vanished from sight. Was that the interference by the world's essence? Intriguing. Wang Jian ruminated with an amused smile. While he was disappointed to have lost such a legendary weapon, he did not allow it to overshadow his next move. His attention swiftly turned to the Miracle Angel tribe, and he began contemplating how he should use them. As Wang Jian pondered on how to handle the Miracle Angel tribe, a thought occurred to him. The members of the tribe were renowned for their unparalleled healing abilities. He could use them to his advantage and have them serve as his faction's exclusive healers. With this idea in mind, he decided to spare the tribe and make them swear allegiance to him. He knew that they would be hesitant to do so, given their disdain towards him, but he knew how to convince them. Undeterred, Wang Jian began his speech, carefully choosing his words to sway the tribe. I understand your feelings of contempt and perhaps even hatred towards me, and I don't blame you for it, he said in a calm voice, masking the malice underneath. The members of the Miracle Angel tribe listened with rapt attention, curious about what Wang Jian wanted from them. Sensing their curiosity, Wang Jian continued, as some of you may know, I have a close relationship with your heiress, Han Shifeng. She can confirm that my intentions towards your tribe are pure. Han Shifeng's heart sank at the mention of her name. She knew that Wang Jian was lying to the tribe to gain their trust. The truth was that he had forced himself upon her while holding her tribe hostage. Is he telling the truth? Are you really in an intimate relationship with him? One of the members of the tribe asked. Han Shifeng hesitated for a moment, but she knew that she couldn't tell the truth. If she did, the tribe would be in danger. She took a deep breath and nodded her head slowly. Yes, it's true, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The tribe was shocked and disappointed by her confession. They couldn't believe that their heiress would betray the Holy Sun and their tribe for someone like Wang Jian. What about the Holy Sun? Why would you betray him like that? Another member of the tribe asked. The most up-to-date NVELs are published on n0velgen.co/m. Han Shifeng looked down at the ground, unable to meet their gaze. She felt ashamed of what she had done, but she knew that she had to keep up the act. I didn't mean to, she said, her voice trembling. It's just, I couldn't help myself. He's so charming. Wang Jian's smile widened as he heard Han Shifeng's words. He knew that his plan was working perfectly. Is that why you brought him here to kill the Holy Sun? I can't believe it, another member of the tribe said, shaking their head in disbelief. Han Shifeng couldn't bear to hear their disappointment and anger towards her, but she knew that she had to keep up the charade. She bit her lip and nodded her head in shame. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she said, trying her best to sound sincere. Wang Jian walked towards Han Shifeng and put his arm around her shoulder, a smirk on his face. It's all right, my love. They'll come around eventually. They just need some time to process everything, he said, his voice oozing with false sympathy. Han Shifeng felt disgusted at his touch but didn't dare to resist. She knew that she was in too deep now and couldn't back out. Wang Jian turned to them with that same smile. I know that this is a difficult situation for all of you. After all, I did kill someone very important to your clan. But try to understand it from my viewpoint. He was an enemy who wanted to vanquish me for quite a long time. I couldn't just wait for him to get strong enough to cut my head off. This game of cat and mouse had to end somewhere. He added, however, I want you to assure that you have nothing to fear. As the leader of the strongest faction in the region, I can offer you protection, wealth, and even some important positions in my council. You have a lot to gain by joining me. The tribe members looked at each other skeptically, unsure of whether they could trust Wang Jian's words. But he continued to speak, his voice smooth and reassuring. I understand that you may not trust me, and I don't blame you for that, he said. But I want you to know that I am a man of my word. If you swear your allegiance to me, I will ensure that you are treated with the respect and dignity that you deserve. He paused, allowing his words to sink in before continuing. Think about it. With me by your side, you will have access to resources and opportunities that you never even knew existed. You will be able to help more people and save more lives while spreading the good name of your tribe. Isn't that what you want? The tribe members couldn't help but feel impressed and somewhat tempted by his offer. Slowly but surely, Wang Jian continued to integrate the benefits of joining his faction into the conversation, never pressuring or overwhelming them but instead presenting them with options and opportunities. Eventually, some members of the Miracle Angel tribe began to see the value in his offer. Han Shifeng forced herself to listen to Wang Jian's smooth and convincing words. She knew better than anyone else how manipulative and wicked he truly was, but she couldn't risk speaking out against him. Can we take some time to discuss it among ourselves? An elderly member of the Miracle Angel tribe asked. As the elderly member of the Miracle Angel tribe requested time to discuss the proposal with her companions, Wang Jian nodded with a gentle smile. Of course, take all the time you need. I understand this is a big decision for your tribe, he said, his words dripping with honeyed tones. The 7 women of the tribe moved to a secluded location in the lair, away from the prying eyes of Wang Jian and his men. They sat in a circle, deep in discussion. I think it's a good deal, one of the members spoke up. We will have protection and resources. We can also boost our tribe's prestige without the fear of getting hunted. Another member nodded in agreement, and we will have access to advanced medical knowledge and equipment. We can further develop our skills and save more lives. However, not everyone was in favor of the deal. But at what cost? One member argued. We will have to swear allegiance to Wang Jian. We will be tied to his faction, and who knows what he might ask of us in the future. Another member spoke up. And what about the Holy Sun? We cannot just forget about him and how he was so cruelly killed. Han Shifeng remained with Wang Jian as he didn't allow her to join the discussion. She knew deep down that this was not the right choice, but she also knew that her tribe was desperate for safety and resources. She hoped that they would make the right decision, but she feared for the consequences. What do you think will be their decision? Wang Jian asked Han Shifeng with a low voice. They will never accept a deal with a wicked man like you, Han Shifeng whispered back as she glared at him. I think differently. I believe they will accept it, Wang Jian responded with a smirk. The discussion went on for a while longer, but eventually, the tribe members came to a decision. 5 of them were in favor of the deal, while 2 were against it. They knew the risks, but they also knew the benefits. As they returned to Wang Jian, he greeted them with that same fake smile. Have you reached a decision? He asked. The elderly member stepped forward. Yes, we have decided to accept on one condition. You will never ask us to heal our hated enemies. Wang Jian's smile widened as he nodded. I agree to your condition. Welcome to my faction. I promise you won't regret this decision. He then gave a sardonic smile to Han Shifeng before turning away as if mocking her for guessing wrongly. Wang Jian extended his arm, gesturing for them to follow him as he spoke in a warm tone. Allow me to escort you to your new abode. It's time for you to leave this humble lair and settle in a place befitting your status. The Miracle Angel tribe members followed him with mixed emotions. While some still harbored resentment towards Wang Jian for his heinous act of killing Lin Feng, others had chosen to overlook it and focus on the promising future he had offered them. The older generation, who were deeply rooted in tradition and loyalty to the Holy Sun, found it hard to forgive Wang Jian's wicked act. However, the younger generation had a different perspective. They were more inclined towards the idea of living in a luxurious house in the city, which seemed like a dream come true to them. Wang Jian walked alongside Han Shifeng with his arm around her waist. To the Miracle Angel tribe members, they seemed to be in a harmonious relationship. But only the 2 knew the truth. While he was walking, Wang Jian decided to check out the system notifications. Congratulations, host. You have successfully defeated the protagonist Lin Feng in direct confrontation. You received 20,000 destiny points. Congratulations, host. Due to your schemes, heroine Kong Huiyan has lost her trust in the protagonist Lin Feng and also lost the last bit of feelings towards him. You received 10,000 destiny points. Congratulations, host. You have successfully broken heroine Kong Huiyan with your schemes. She has lost all desires of resisting you. You received 20,000 destiny points. Congratulations, host. You have made heroine Fen Shuang to utterly fall in love with you. You receive 5,000 destiny points. Congratulations, host. You have taken heroine Fan Shuang's first kiss despite her marriage contract with the protagonist Lin Feng. You receive 10,000 destiny points. Note, the points are boosted because of her marriage contract with the protagonist Lin Feng. Congratulations, host. You have taken heroine Fan Shuang's virginity despite her marriage contract with the protagonist Lin Feng. You receive 50,000 destiny points. Congratulations, host. You have made love to heroine Fan Shuang in humiliating positions despite her marriage contract with the protagonist Lin Feng. You receive 40,000 destiny points. There were a couple more notifications regarding Fan Shuang earning him just a bit over 10,000 destiny points. Congratulations, host. You have forcefully made love to heroine Han Shifeng and taken her virginity despite her marriage contract with protagonist Lin Feng. You earn 30,000 destiny points. Wang Jian raised his brows upon checking this notification. He wondered why he received such a low number of points from Han Shifeng compared to Fan Shuang. However, the system had fortunately provided him with an explanation. Note, these low number of points are because the host's luck surpassed the protagonist's. Congratulations, host. You have made love to heroine Han Shifeng in humiliating positions despite her marriage contract with the protagonist Lin Feng. You receive 20,000 destiny points. Congratulations, host. You have successfully broke protagonist Lin Feng's mind after revealing of your relationship with his women. You are rewarded with 40,000 destiny points. Congratulations, host. You have successfully killed the first protagonist Lin Feng. You earn a total of 100,000 destiny points. In total, Wang Jian had earned a total of 355,654 destiny points. Adding them to his already 134,111 points, he had a total of 489,765 points. Note, all of Lin Feng's heroines have lost their heroine status. Note, the system is ready to update. Time required, 3 days. Name, Wang Jian. Age, 20 years old. Destiny points, 489,765. Cultivation, first stage of the Lord Realm. Cultivation technique, Soaring Dragon Technique, Level 3, requires 100,000 destiny points to level up. Skills, Origin Fist, Beam of Destruction, Mystic Force, Divine Shielding Iron Body, True Eyes, Spiritual Sensitivity, Moonrise Fist, Lunar Shield, Moonshadow Step, Shadow Manipulation, Dark Fog, Eclipse Domain Annihilation, and Tranquil Mind Divine Mantra. Bloodline, Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Bloodline. Second level, next level, 500,000. Physique, Chaotic Yang Body, Dormant. Spirit, Twin-Headed Dark Flame Python, 6-star Spirit, Mutated. Weaknesses, Holy Attribute. Solar Attribute. Explore new ovals on nvelby.com. Begin the upgrade. As you command, host. The system will remain shut for the next 3 days. You can still check your status, receive notifications, and utilize your skills. Wang Jian was a man of great wealth and influence, with numerous estates scattered throughout the Jingwan region. In addition to the lavish estate he had bestowed upon Fan Shuang and Lady Xia, he owned another property situated in close proximity to his own opulent mansion. This estate was positioned on the opposite side of his primary residence from the estate gifted to Fan Shuang, ensuring that it was a separate and distinct entity. The Miracle Angel tribe members were overjoyed with the opulent estate and expressed their gratitude to Wang Jian with utmost sincerity. Wang Jian acknowledged their appreciation with a gracious smile and bid them farewell. Han Shifeng yearned to stay with her tribe members and revel in the luxurious surroundings. However, a single stern glance from Wang Jian was enough to force her to acquiesce and start moving towards him. Wang Jian knew perfectly that if Han Shifeng stayed with her tribe members, she would either inform them of the truth or give them a hint of his wickedness. He had to prevent that at all costs. Han Shifeng stepped into the grand entrance of Wang Jian's mansion, her heart pounding with fear. As they walked down the hallway, they encountered a beautiful woman approaching them with a maid trailing behind her. Wang Jian turned to Han Shifeng. "This is Su Xian, my concubine," he said as he introduced the woman to her. Han Shifeng remained silent as she gazed at Su Xian, and then it dawned on her that this was the same name as Lin Feng's childhood sweetheart. "And who is this?" Su Xian asked, gesturing towards Han Shifeng. Han Shifeng, the heiress of the Miracle Angel tribe. "She is my new maid," Wang Jian spoke. Su Xian's eyes widened with surprise as she looked at Han Shifeng. So, she is just like Kong Huiyan? She asked. Correct, Wang Jian spoke, his fingers lightly stroking Su Xian's cheek. A light blush appeared on her cheeks as she purred. Han Shifeng observed the interaction between Wang Jian and Su Xian with a mix of curiosity and unease. Despite knowing the history of Lin Feng's relationship with Su Xian, she couldn't help but notice the fondness that Su Xian seemed to have for Wang Jian. As the two conversed, Han Shifeng couldn't shake the feeling that Wang Jian had treated her and Kong Huiyan differently than Su Xian. He had introduced Su Xian as his concubine, a title denoting a certain level of respect and status. Meanwhile, Han Shifeng and Kong Huiyan were referred to as mere maids. This realization made Han Shifeng wonder if Wang Jian had forced himself on Kong Huiyan as well. The thought filled her with disgust and anger. Han Shifeng felt a flicker of relief at the thought of having someone in the mansion who could empathize with her. Kong Huiyan, who had been living in the mansion for a while, had already given up any thoughts of rebellion against Wang Jian. She had submitted to his will completely, and her mind had broken under the weight of his dominance. Wang Jian stared at the maid and instructed her, "Show her the room on the first floor." "Yes, Your Highness," the maid responded. After the maid confirmed her departure with Han Shifeng, Wang Jian and Su Xian were left alone. Su Xian wrapped her arms around Wang Jian, hugging him tightly. He smiled, enjoying the embrace. Discover EU chapters at novelby.co. How goes your training with your spirit? Wang Jian asked, looking at her with affection. It's going well, Jian. Though it's still somewhat challenging to use my attacks through it, I feel like I'm getting the hang of it, Su Xian responded, beaming with joy. Wang Jian nodded approvingly. That's good. You'll get there soon. As they separated, Wang Jian's expression turned serious. My scouts will return today with the first batch of your students. Since it will be your first session, I will oversee it. Su Xian's eyes widened with excitement. Thank you, Your Highness. I won't disappoint you. Wang Jian smiled at her determination. I know you won't. The two soon walked to a lavish dining room that overlooked a beautiful garden. The table was already set with various delicacies and Wang Jian's favorite dishes. As they sat down, Su Xian served Wang Jian his food, feeding him with her own hands. Her eyes sparkled with love and adoration for him as she watched him eat. Wang Jian, on the other hand, was somewhat hungry and ate eagerly, relishing every bite of the delicious food. Without a second thought, she leaned in and gently wiped it away as she licked his cheek. The romantic lunch continued with the two sharing intimate moments, talking and laughing between mouthfuls of food. Su Xian continued to feed Wang Jian, making sure he had everything he needed. And when he was done, she wiped his face with a napkin. The room was filled with an atmosphere of love and warmth as the two enjoyed each other's company. They lost track of time as they savored the delicious food and each other's presence. As their romantic lunch drew to a close, a maid entered the room and addressed Wang Jian, Your Highness, the scouts have returned and are waiting for you in the hall. Wang Jian and Su Xian rose from their seats and made their way to the hall. Upon entering the hall, Wang Jian was greeted by a group of scouts who had already arrived with the women interested in cultivating under him. True to his instructions, the scouts had selected only the most beautiful women to participate in the scheme, and as a result, only 9 of them had arrived to receive training from him. Each of them was a beautiful woman in their own right, but they couldn't be compared to heroines like Fan Shuiying, Su Xian, Han Shifeng, and Kong Huiyan. As Wang Jian scrutinized the women standing in front of him, taking note of their physical traits and demeanor, he understood that each of them had their own personal motives for wanting to learn cultivation, and he suspected that some of them might have hidden agendas. But Wang Jian didn't concern himself with their motivations. The only thing that mattered was their willingness to submit to him. He knew that true loyalty couldn't be judged in an instant, it would take time and effort to earn their trust. But for now, all he could do was provide them with the best training with earnest dedication, hoping to win their respect and devotion over time. Wang Jian looked at the group of women standing before him, each one with her own unique features and motivations. He cleared his throat and began to speak. Ladies, I thank you for coming today. I know that each of you has your own reasons for seeking to cultivate your martial skills, and I commend you for your determination. Today, I want to introduce you to your instructor, Su Xian. She will teach you the basics of cultivation and martial arts. Once you have mastered the basics, I will step in and provide you with more thorough training. Su Xian is an accomplished martial artist and cultivator. She has undergone rigorous training herself and has successfully cultivated her spirit. She has the skills and knowledge to teach you all that you need to know to become successful cultivators. I must warn you, however, that this will not be an easy journey. Cultivation requires hard work and dedication. It is not something that can be learned overnight. But if you are willing to put in the effort and follow Su Xian's guidance, I am confident that you will be able to achieve your goals. Su Xian will be your guide on this journey. Remember, cultivation is a journey, not a destination. It is a process of continuous improvement and self-discovery. I wish you all the best of luck on your journey, and I look forward to seeing the progress you will make under Su Xian's guidance. Li Mei, she approaches Su Xian with a nervous smile and bows respectfully. Greetings, Instructor Su Xian. I am Li Mei, and I am honored to be under your tutelage. Zhang Ying, she walks up to Su Xian confidently, her gaze meeting hers. I am Zhang Ying, and I am looking forward to learning from you, Instructor Su Xian. Discover WStories on no/e/lbin.com. Lu Shui, she approaches Su Xian with a warm smile and clasps her hands together in greeting. I am Lu Shui. Thank you for taking us under your wing, Instructor Su Xian. Wang Xia, she greets Su Xian with a slight bow and a timid smile. My name is Wang Xia. I am grateful for the opportunity to learn from someone as skilled as you, Instructor Su Xian. Qin Yu, she steps forward and greets Su Xian with a confident smile. My name is Qin Yu. I look forward to learning from the best, Instructor Su Xian. Zhou Wei, she greets Su Xian with a warm smile and a small curtsy. I am Zhou Wei. Thank you for accepting us as your students, Instructor Su Xian. Yang Wei, she approaches Su Xian with a serious expression and bows respectfully. My name is Yang Wei. I hope to learn as much as I can from you, Instructor Su Xian. Wu Ying, she greets Su Xian with a friendly smile and a small wave. My name is Wu Ying. I am excited to learn from you, Instructor Su Xian. Sun Hua, she approaches Su Xian with a shy smile and bows respectfully. I am Sun Hua. Thank you for teaching us, Instructor Su Xian. They soon proceeded towards the training ground, where Su Xian began to lecture them regarding cultivation. These women had many questions, but Su Xian answered them all with ease along with a suitable example. Her words managed to convince these women and even earn their respect. After the session was over, the women left the mansion and returned to their respective houses. Wang Jian then asked his scouts about the backgrounds of these women. Apparently, Li Mei, Zhou Wei, Yang Wei, Wu Ying, and Sun Hua were single mothers who had taken a divorce and were trying to raise their single child. Meanwhile, Lu Shui and Wang Xia just wanted to get stronger as they wanted to improve their techniques. And lastly, Qin Yu and Zhang Ying wished to live happily with their families and protect them from harm. Among them, Qin Yu was married, while Zhang Ying was unmarried. Wang Jian swept his gaze over their information and informed the scouts to offer Li Mei, Zhou Wei, Yang Wei, Wu Ying, Wang Xia, Lu Shui, and Sun Hua a place in the mansion. This way, they could protect their child. As for Qin Yu and Zhang Ying, he decided to take a decision about them later. After giving these orders, Wang Jian left the hall along with Su Xian. Su Xian asked, So, how did I do? It went well. I can be relieved leaving them in your hands, Wang Jian responded candidly. Thank you, Su Xian jumped up in excitement. Just focus on teaching them cultivation techniques. If you encounter any issues, inform me, Wang Jian spoke. I will. Just leave it to me, Su Xian assured while patting her chest. During the next 2 days, Su Xian dedicated herself to training the new students in cultivation while Wang Jian was busy executing his plan of recruiting spies from the Night Dagger clan and the Miracle Angel tribes. These spies were tasked with keeping Wang Jian informed of any confidential decisions made by their respective factions, unbeknownst to their leaders. During the last 2 nights, Wang Jian indulged in sexual activities with both Han Shifeng and Kong Huiyan, subjecting them to his torment. However, he was disappointed to find that there were no notifications from the system. He soon realized that it was because neither Han Shifeng nor Kong Huiyan possessed the heroine title, as he had killed Lin Feng. This place doesn't seem to have any more protagonists. I should leave this place now. However, I have been banished to this region. If I try to leave without the Emperor's permission, I will be punished even more severely. I should contact my mother, Wang Jian murmured. Well, this was his only choice if Wang Jian wanted to get out of Jingguan region. Actually, the Jingguan region was also considered a forbidden land and criminals or other individuals were sent to this place for exile. Wang Jian was also exiled to this region. But due to his royal status, he became the lord of this region and ruled it with complete authority. I need to add enough details that would allow my mother to convince the emperor, Wang Jian thought. Wang Jian was exiled to the Xinhuan region after he killed an envoy from a rival country who had come to cause trouble. Wang Jian's mother, Bai Liqin, was targeted in an assassination attempt, and when Wang Jian learned that the envoy was responsible, he ordered his soldiers to execute him. Unfortunately, there was no concrete evidence tying the envoy to the assassination attempt. To appease both the court and international allies, the emperor banished Wang Jian to the Xinhuan region, which was known to be incredibly dangerous. The region was home to the 3 great tribes and various dangerous beasts, but the most perilous being was a powerful demonic entity that was sealed deep within the inner forest. No one had ventured into that area and returned alive. A powerful barrier array surrounded the Xinhuan region, and a strict security system prevented anyone from leaving. The reason for this was the emperor-ranked killing array set up throughout the entire region, which would activate and cause significant harm once the seal was broken and enough blood had been shed. Visit N0VL/BIN. For the best novel reading experience. The activation required the blood of hundreds of thousands of lives. This condition was fairly simple to satisfy as the demonic entity would do that for them. As a result, the people in the Xinhuan region were considered unfortunate and living on borrowed time, with their lives at risk once the demonic being broke free from its seal. The emperor's punishment for Wang Jian was considered satisfactory by their international allies, as banishment to the Xinhuan region was widely known to be a harsh and terrible fate. The letter soon reached the palace of the everlasting Mystic Empire's royal family. The palace was a sight to behold. It was a massive structure that exuded grandeur and luxury. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings and paintings that depicted the history and culture of the empire. The floors were made of polished marble that shone in the sunlight that streamed through the windows. The halls were lined with towering pillars, and the ceilings were decorated with exquisite chandeliers that cast a warm glow over the space. Bai Liqin, Wang Jian's mother, walked towards the emperor's chambers with a sense of excitement and anticipation. She was a beautiful woman with a regal bearing, and her presence commanded attention. Her long, black hair was tied back in an elegant bun, and her eyes sparkled with anticipation. She clutched the letter from her son and had faith that the emperor would revoke his exile after hearing the details in the letter. As she entered the chambers, the emperor sat on his throne, looking as cold and emotionless as ever. "Your Majesty," she began, bowing low. "I have received a letter from our son, Wang Jian. He has expressed his regret for his actions and begs for your forgiveness." The emperor snorted. "Forgiveness? After what he has done? He has brought shame upon our family and our empire." Bai Liqin took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, please listen to me. Our son was provoked. The envoy from the rival country insulted our honor and threatened the safety of our family. Our son acted in self-defense." The emperor narrowed his eyes. "Do you think we are unaware of this fact? As our concubine, you should be aware that he was punished because he acted rashly. Our royal family lost significant prestige and incurred multiple losses due to his actions. He must stay there for at least an entire decade before even thinking of returning." Bai Liqin bowed low, tears welling in her eyes. "I know, Your Majesty. If it was merely this, I would never have foiled your mood by giving you this information." Actually, he sent more details in his letter. She began to speak proudly. "Our son, Wang Jian, has successfully unified the 3 powerful tribes of the Xinhuan region under his banner." The 3 tribes? The emperor's eyebrows raised in question, the names of the tribes seeming vaguely familiar. Realization dawned on him, and he let out a startled sound. "Those former aristocratic families? You are saying our son managed to unite them under his banner?" Bai Liqin's eyes shone with pride. "Yes, Your Majesty. The same tribes that were banished from our empire due to their rebellion. He has brought them under his control." The emperor's interest was piqued, and he leaned forward. "Tell us more about this." Bai Liqin eagerly continued. "He has gained their loyalty through his impressive military tactics and strategic planning. Wang Jian's leadership and charisma have won the hearts of these powerful tribes." The emperor's mind was racing, contemplating the implications of his son's achievement. "This is impressive," he said finally. "The unification of these tribes couldn't have been an easy task. Our son has proven himself capable." Bai Liqin couldn't contain her joy as she rose from her bow, her eyes shining with hope. "Yes, Your Majesty. Surely, with our son's leadership, he can bring glory to our empire and turn the tides in our favor against our enemies." The emperor considered her words carefully, his cold heart beginning to warm slightly at the thought of his son's potential. Perhaps you are right, he said thoughtfully, we shall have to rethink our decision. Bai Liqin's heart swelled with relief and gratitude. Thank you, your majesty. The emperor nodded, his mind made up, send word to Wang Jian. We shall revoke his exile and welcome him back to the capital. He shall have an important role to play in the future of our empire. Bai Liqin's heart overflowed with pride and emotion at the emperor's words. Thank you, your majesty. I shall send word immediately. As she made her way out of the grand chamber, Bai Liqin's heart swelled with gratitude and love for her son, who had proven himself a capable leader and strategist. She couldn't wait to see him again and share in his future successes. Bai Liqin received the letter a day after its dispatch, and it would require an equivalent amount of time for the letter to reach Wang Jian. In preparation for the momentous meeting, Wang Jian summoned the representatives and heiresses of the 3 tribes, along with a few other influential figures, to gather in the grand hall of his sprawling mansion. The chamber was so vast that one could easily get lost in its opulence. As the meeting began, Elder Lianhua of the Miracle Angel tribe was seated on a regular chair set linearly, while Han Shifeng, also representing the same tribe, was seated on the pedestal near Wang Jian. For the Night Dagger clan, Fen Shuiying was the sole representative of the clan. And for the Crimson Mammoth tribe, Kong Fu held the honor of representing his people, despite the distressed gaze of his daughter. At the center of it all, towering over the rest, was Wang Jian's throne, with Su Xian and Fen Shuiying perched on a lower level. A step below them was Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng, while the rest of the attendees were arranged in rows of chairs extending all the way to the entrance of the hall. Wang Jian rose to his feet, his expression serious as he addressed the gathering. I have called upon this meeting to share some extraordinary news with you all. The emperor has finally agreed to revoke my exile and allow me to return to the mainland. There were gasps of disbelief and surprise from all those in attendance. No one had ever heard of anyone being allowed to leave the Jingguan region once they had been exiled. It was an unprecedented event that had never been recorded in any of the tribe's sacred texts. Wang Jian's eyes flicked over the crowd, gauging their reactions before continuing, but that is not all. I have a proposal for all of you, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is to accompany me and leave the Jingguan region. What's the catch? Elder Lianhua inquired with a serious tone. The catch is that you all sign the blood contract, which will ally us together, Wang Jian declared. Wang Jian's attendants appeared and presented each representative with a contract. The agreement contained several provisions, specifically. Firstly, each tribe must prioritize Wang Jian's instructions above everything else upon their return to the mainland. Secondly, for 5 years after their return, they couldn't form alliances with other factions. Thirdly, the heiress of each tribe would become the de facto leader of their respective tribe. In exchange, Wang Jian promised to provide them with accommodation, shelter, essential resources to become stronger, help them achieve greater prestige, and a personal territory in the everlasting mystic region. While this offer was a far cry from their past glory, it was still a considerable deal. The 3 representatives of the tribes had varied reactions upon hearing the conditions presented by Wang Jian. Fen Shuiying was the first to express her agreement to the terms. Without even reading the contract, she swiftly put her signature on it. Her love and unwavering trust in Wang Jian were the reasons behind her quick decision. On the other hand, Han Shifeng and Elder Lianhua wore serious expressions on their faces. They exchanged meaningful glances and took some time before finally making up their minds. However, before they could convey their decision, a loud ripping sound reverberated across the hall. It was Kong Fu who dramatically tore the contract into shreds, indicating his disagreement with Wang Jian's offer. Wang Jian maintained his composure even after Kong Fu's impolite act. May I know why you refused my proposal? What would be your terms for a contract that would satisfy you? He inquired. My tribe will never form an alliance with you. Kong Fu replied derisively. Wang Jian fixed his gaze on him, his eyes glinting dangerously. Kong Huiyan quickly caught sight of the menacing look in Wang Jian's eyes and bowed nervously, imploring him, please forgive my father, your highness. He speaks without thinking. I can speak to him and... Silence! Wang Jian interrupted, his voice cold and commanding. Kong Huiyan obediently sat back down, her demeanor meek and fearful. Su Xian, Fen Shuiying, and Han Shifeng watched with growing unease as Wang Jian's anger simmered beneath the surface. Are you absolutely certain you will not sign the contract, Kong Fu? Wang Jian asked, his tone laced with warning. Kong Fu, however, remained stubborn, his face set in a sneer. You cannot intimidate me, Wang Jian. I will never sign your blood contract. You can try all you want. Wang Jian's gaze turned even icier as he heard this. He remained silent for a moment, seemingly considering his options. Wang Jian's eyes blazed with anger as he heard Kung Fu's response. Without a word, he stepped forward and delivered a devastating blow to Kung Fu's chest. The force of the strike sent Kung Fu reeling back, blood gushing from his mouth as he struggled to remain standing. Kong Huyen screamed in terror as she watched her father fall, rushing to his side and cradling his head in her lap. "Father! What have you done?" she cried, tears streaming down her face. Wang Jian's expression remained cold and emotionless as he turned to the nearest servant. "Take him to the dungeon," he ordered, his voice devoid of any feeling. All the people in the hall looked on in shock and horror, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. "Your Highness, what have you done?" Elder Lianhua gasped, her voice trembling. Your F4 stories on /o/v/lbn.cm. Wang Jian turned to face them, his eyes were hard and unyielding. "He was given a choice, and he chose to reject our offer," he said, his voice like ice. "He made his bed, and now he must lie in it." The three representatives exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what to say or do in the face of Wang Jian's cold and ruthless actions. "I have no patience for such stubbornness. If you seek changes, make your demands. But do not think you can flaunt your arrogance here without facing the consequences," Wang Jian declared, his tone as cold as ice. He then turned his gaze towards Kong Huyen and continued, "I spared your father's life only because of you. But he is now crippled and unable to lead your tribe. By the law of succession, the mantle falls on you. Now the decision is yours. Will you sign the contract?" he asked with a sinister grin on his face. Kong Huyen pondered over the situation, realizing that resisting Wang Jian's authority would only lead to dire consequences. She concluded that it would be prudent to comply with his demands, as his malevolence knew no bounds. As Kong Huyen signed the contract, Wang Jian turned his head towards Elder Lianhua with an air of authority. Elder Lianhua felt a sense of dread overcoming her as she looked towards Han Shifeng for guidance. Han Shifeng's lips twisted into a pained expression as she struggled with the decision, but ultimately nodded in agreement. The weight of the decision was not lost on her, as it meant that Elder Lianhua would have to sign the contract or risk unleashing chaos upon their tribe. The atmosphere in the room grew thick with tension, as Wang Jian's piercing gaze bore down upon Elder Lianhua. The elder hesitated for a moment, contemplating the potential consequences of her actions, before finally taking a deep breath and signing the contract. With a triumphant smile, Wang Jian declared, "Excellent. Now we have an official alliance." Wang Jian returned to his throne and took his seat before speaking. "Do you have any suggestions? I naturally do not wish for your tribes to suffer. The stronger your tribes are, the more powerful this alliance will be." These words had a calming effect on everyone in the hall, causing them to unconsciously relax from their previously tense positions. It was evident to all that he was genuinely interested in hearing any concerns or grievances they might have. During the meeting, Fen Shuang brought up the issues her clan was facing with the quantity and quality of weapons and equipment, prompting a nod from Wang Jian, who diligently took note of these concerns in his diary. The Miracle Angel tribe was next to present their troubles, and they expressed a desire to acquire herb seeds and requested a special area to grow them. Additionally, they sought Wang Jian's assistance in facilitating trade with business organizations or alchemy organizations. After the two tribes had shared their concerns, Wang Jian's gaze inevitably fell upon Kong Huyen, who, in response to his inquisitive look, averted her eyes and remained silent, weighed down by her own thoughts. Wang Jian spoke, "I will create a special arena for the Crimson Mammoth tribe where you can conduct battles and even manage it. This will allow the warriors of your tribe to challenge other fighters in the everlasting Mystic Empire. For the first 2 years, I will sponsor the rewards in this arena." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Kong Huyen couldn't resist bowing deeply and expressing her heartfelt thanks. "Thank you, Your Highness, for your graciousness." F0 Low New Hapters at nov/el/bin/.com. After acknowledging Kong Huyen's gratitude, Wang Jian deftly steered the conversation towards other pressing matters that required his attention. The meeting continued for another hour before Wang Jian dismissed everyone except his wives and maids. Presently, Wang Jian, Su Xian, Fen Shuang, Han Shifeng, and Kong Huyen are gathered in the hall, exchanging curious and cautious glances with one another. It marks the first time the four women have met together in a group, and the atmosphere is one of intrigue and anticipation. Su Xian broke the silence with a playful remark, "It seems that destiny has brought us together, all belonging to one man." Although, I never thought that man would be Jian instead of Lin Feng. Fen Shuang chuckled at her words as she added, it is true that fate has brought us together, but we must remember that we are all here by choice. We chose to be a part of Jian's life, to support him and be with him. Su Xian nodded upon hearing those words, while Kang Huiyan and Han Shifeng just stared at the two with serious expressions. They were not in love with Wang Jian, and their situation was drastically different compared to Su Xian and Fen Shuang. They remained stoic but couldn't help noticing the curious look Su Xian and Fen Shuang were giving them. Their silent observations were interrupted when they noticed Wang Jian staring at them with a polite yet threatening smile. Kang Huiyan said, "You are right. We have to support him as best as we can. I just think it would have been amazing if my father wasn't so stubborn." Han Shifeng patted her comrade's shoulder as she spoke, "Don't worry. He will understand your decision one day." Wang Jian subtly nodded at the two. This was exactly the response he wanted from them. Su Xian spoke, "Choosing Jian over Lin Feng was the best decision I ever made in my life. You can definitely trust him to help you prosper your tribes. Just don't ever think of betraying him." Fen Shuang excitedly nodded, "Yep. Every day goes by so cheerfully that I always feel like it's a dream. Ever since Lin Feng murdered my father, I thought that my tribe and I were done for. But Wang Jian supported us so kindly like a noble gentleman." Han Shifeng couldn't help but roll her eyes in disdain as she thought, what a foolish woman. You have no idea that this was the true perpetrator who killed your father and pushed your clan into that desperate situation. Your father's soul must be cursing you for falling in love with the man who killed him. Naturally, Han Shifeng could never reveal the secret as she was the one who collaborated with him on the scheme. However, Han Shifeng also had no idea that the reason for her hatred for the Night Dagger clan and the Crimson Mammoth tribe was also Wang Jian, as he was the one who instigated the Night Dagger clan into betraying the Miracle Angel tribe and slaughtering them. Fen Shuang had no idea about such a grave secret and could never blurt it out to Han Shifeng, so it was impossible for her to come across this information. As for Kang Huiyan, she could never confess how Wang Jian had manipulated her body in a nasty manner while simultaneously using her tribe as leverage, forcing her to surrender to him entirely. The only person in the hall who had a detailed understanding of the entire scenario was Wang Jian. However, he was completely relaxed as he understood their inner turmoil and thoughts clearly. As the sun began to set, Wang Jian led his wives to a grand dining table, lavishly adorned with intricate carvings and exquisite tableware, all complemented by the warm, flickering light of dozens of candles. The table was surrounded by ornate chairs, each more splendid than the last, and placed strategically to optimize both comfort and aesthetic appeal. As Kang Huiyan and Han Shifeng sat down, they couldn't help but marvel at the grandeur of the dining hall. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before, and it made them feel both awed and slightly intimidated. A plethora of dishes was arranged with meticulous care and precision. The table was adorned with ornate silverware, and the dishes were placed in stunning porcelain bowls and plates. The dishes on the table were a mix of vegetarian and non-vegetarian delicacies. The meat dishes were prepared from rare beasts found in the mellow magnolia woods and thundering hemlock woods. These beasts were known for their succulent meat, which was not only flavorful but also beneficial for the physique. The vegetarian dishes were equally exquisite, with the fresh aroma of different herbs and spices mingling in the air. The vegetables were sourced from the Miracle Angel tribe, known for their expertise in cultivating rare and nutritious herbs. As they began to dine, Lady Xiao swept in with a warm smile on her face. She greeted her daughter, Fen Shuang, and inquired about the outcome of the meeting. Fen Shuang recounted the events of the day, explaining each tribe's grievances and Wang Jian's plans to address them. Lady Xiao nodded in understanding as she saw her daughter excitedly inform her of all details that occurred in the meeting room. And naturally, Fen Shuang didn't mention anything regarding Kung Fu and the way Wang Jian dealt with him. All other of Wang Jian's women silently ate their dinner while the mother-daughter duo talked. Wang Jian relished the succulent jade hair meat, savoring each bite and washing it down with the expensive red wine. His eyes fixated on Lady Xia as a twisted smirk crept onto his face. There was a dark, malicious glint that appeared in his eyes as he hungrily stared at her form. "I have waited long enough," Wang Jian thought as an evil fire lit within his heart. The delectable feast came to a close, and everyone at the table had their fill. Wang Jian rose from his seat and gestured to the others, "Allow me to lead you to your chambers. Our maids have been instructed to prepare them to your satisfaction." One by one, he led each woman to their room respectively. Fen Shuang and Lady Xia kept on talking in whispers on their way. The first one to reach her chambers was Su Xian, while the final two were Fen Shuang and Lady Xia. They soon reached Fan Shuang's chambers and stopped. Wang Jian spoke, "It's been prepared for you, Shuang. I even told them to burn jasmine incense. I know you love that fragrance." "Whoa! That's amazing. You really know me the best." Fan Shuang exclaimed happily as she hugged him. Wang Jian lightly stroked her hair while giving her a smile. "All right. Go to your room and sleep. We have a long day ahead of us." "MHM. Have a good night, dear," she spoke as she tiptoed and pecked his cheek. Knowing that her mother was watching, Fan Shuang was really embarrassed as she rushed to her chambers and closed the doors. Only Wang Jian and Lady Xia were left in the corridors. "Please lead me to my chambers," Lady Xia requested politely. "Of course, right this way," Wang Jian replied, gesturing towards the end of the hallway. As they approached the final room, Wang Jian opened the door and announced, "This will be your room, Lady Xia. Why don't you have a look inside?" Lady Xia nodded and stepped into the room, immediately taken aback by the opulence of her surroundings. The chamber was unlike any of the others in the hallway, adorned with exquisite embellishments and grandeur that outshone its smaller counterparts. It was evident that this room held a special significance, reflected in its lavish decorations and bespoke architecture, all test NOVL on novelben/.cm. Lady Xia couldn't help but marvel at the level of detail and effort put into creating such a magnificent space. Unbeknownst to her, Wang Jian silently entered her chambers and closed the door behind him. The resounding clicks of the lock echoed through the room, causing Lady Xia to turn her head in surprise. Upon seeing it was only Wang Jian, a wave of relief washed over her features. "Is there anything else you require, Your Highness?" Lady Xia inquired, lost in admiration of the room's exquisite designs. Unbeknownst to her, Wang Jian had completely abandoned his restraint and was now eyeing Lady Xia's alluring curves with an unbridled, lascivious gaze. However, she remained oblivious to his lecherous intentions as she continued to appreciate the opulent decor surrounding her. Wang Jian cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "I just wanted to make sure that you're comfortable and that everything is to your liking," he said smoothly, masking his true intentions. Lady Xia turned to face him and replied, "Oh, yes, everything is perfect, thank you." Wang Jian's gaze lingered on her, and he took a step closer, invading her personal space. "You are too kind, my lady," he murmured, his voice dripping with lust. Lady Xia finally turned to fully face him, a look of confusion crossing her features. "Is there something else, Your Highness?" she asked, unaware of his true intentions. Wang Jian's eyes flickered with sudden wickedness, his grin spreading across his face like a stain. He reached out and brushed a stray lock of hair behind Lady Xiao's ear, his touch causing her to shiver slightly. "There is something else I desire," he said, his voice low and filled with dark intent. Lady Xiao's heart quickened as she watched him, sensing that something was about to happen. Suddenly, without warning, Wang Jian's right hand darted out and latched onto Lady Xiao's buttocks, squeezing them firmly twice. Lady Xia let out a gasp of shock and fear as she realized the true nature of his intentions. Wang Jian's smile widened, relishing in the terror that he had caused to spread across her face. What are you doing, Your Highness?" With a sudden, violent motion, Wang Jian hurled Lady Xia onto the bed, causing her to bounce and roll across the soft covers. She landed with a thud, her body trembling with a mix of fear and pain. Wang Jian advanced on her with a predatory grin, his eyes gleaming with dark intent as he prepared to indulge his twisted desires. "Such a pretty little thing," he said, his voice filled with a cruel edge. "I wonder how you'll look when you're screaming." Lady Xiao's eyes widened in terror as she realized the full extent of Wang Jian's intentions. She struggled to free herself, but his grip was too strong. "Please, Your Highness," she begged, her voice trembling with fear. "I beg of you, don't do this." Wang Jian only laughed, the sound filled with malice. "Oh, but my dear Lady Xia," he said, leaning in close to her face. "I've already decided that I will have you, whether you want it or not." With that, he seized her roughly by the shoulders and pushed her backwards onto the bed, his strength overpowering her feeble resistance. Lady Xia struggled and kicked, but it was no use. Wang Jian was too strong, too determined to have his way with her. She cried out as he tore at her clothes, his hands roaming over her body with a rough, almost brutal force. She could feel the tears streaming down her face as she begged and pleaded with him to stop, but he only laughed in response, his voice filled with cruel amusement. "You're so beautiful," he whispered, his lips grazing her ear. "And I'm going to enjoy every moment of this." Lady Xiao's body trembled as she struggled beneath Wang Jian's rough touch. Her clothing was torn, revealing her delicate skin and the curves of her body. Her dark hair was tousled, and her eyes were wide with fear as she tried to push him away. But Wang Jian was stronger than her, his hands explored every inch of her body, from the curves of her hips to the swell of her breasts. Lady Xia continues to struggle against Wang Jian's rough advances, trying to convince him to stop by reminding him of her relationship to his wife. "Please, Your Highness," she gasped out between sobs. "I am Fen Shuiying's mother. She loves you, please don't do this." But Wang Jian only responded with a cruel laugh. "Oh, don't worry about her," he said, his voice filled with malice. "She'll never have to know what we've done here tonight." Wang Jian's rough hands explored Lady Xiao's curves, squeezing and kneading her breasts with an almost brutal force. As he leaned in, his hot breath tickled her skin before he fiercely bit down on her left nipple while pinching the other one. Lady Xiao's body convulsed with both pain and pleasure as a primal scream erupted from her lips, reverberating through the room. The sudden burst of sensation rippled through her entire being, stirring something deep within her soul that she had never felt before. Wang Jian's grin widened as he leaned in closer to Lady Xia, his breath hot against her ear. "You seem awfully delighted for someone who was resisting it so stubbornly earlier," he teased, his voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "I guess you can't lie to yourself." Lady Xiao's heart raced as she struggled to catch her breath. "It's and not like that," she stammered, her voice trembling. "I would never enjoy such a despicable dash." But her words were cut off by a sudden surge of pleasure as Wang Jian shifted his focus to her right nipple, biting down hard and pinching her left nipple with his other hand. Despite her best efforts to resist, Lady Xia couldn't deny the sensations coursing through her body. It was both exhilarating and terrifying, the pleasure and pain mixing together in a way that made her feel completely out of control. As Lady Xiao's moment of ecstasy passed, she was once again overcome by guilt and shame. The weight of her betrayal to her daughter was heavy on her heart, and she pleaded with Wang Jian to stop. "Your Highness, I beg of you, please stop," she gasped, her voice strained with emotion. "I cannot betray my daughter like this. Please, have mercy on me." Wang Jian, however, was not moved by her words. He only chuckled, his eyes filled with a wicked gleam. Wang Jian's eyes gleamed with an unholy desire as he gazed down at Lady Xiao's trembling form. "Don't try to resist me, my dear," he said in a low voice. "It will only make things more interesting." With a cruel smile, he reached out and took hold of her breasts, squeezing them tightly in his hands. Lady Xia winced at the sudden pain but also felt a rush of pleasure shoot through her body. Wang Jian chuckled darkly as he continued to explore her body, his touch growing more aggressive and demanding with each passing moment. Lady Xia tried to push him away, to resist him, but it was like trying to fight against a force of nature. As he worked her body to the brink of ecstasy once again, Lady Xia could feel herself losing control, her mind clouded with a mix of desire and shame. "Please, stop," she moaned weakly, her voice barely audible over the sound of her own panting breaths. But Wang Jian was not finished yet. He wanted to hear her scream, to break her completely. And with a sudden surge of violence, he dug his fingers into her globes of flesh, leaving deep red marks that would take days to fade. Lady Xiao's body writhed with both pain and pleasure, her desire for release palpable in the air. But just as she was about to lose herself completely, Wang Jian suddenly stopped his movements, leaving her gasping. She looked up at him, a mixture of hope and fear in her eyes as he spoke with a smirk on his face. "Since you're begging me so politely, I suppose I can stop," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Relief flooded through Lady Xia as she began to regain control of her mind. "Thank you, Your Highness," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. But her relief was short-lived as Wang Jian raised his hand and spoke again, his tone cold and commanding. "Don't thank me just yet. If you want me to stop completely, you'll have to satisfy me first." Lady Xia recoiled at the sight of that massive bulge and hesitated for a moment before shaking her head and saying, "No, Your Highness. I cannot do that. I beg of you, please let me go." Wang Jian's expression darkened as he leaned in close to her, his hot breath tickling her ear. "Don't be foolish, Lady Xia. You're in no position to make demands. If you want me to stop, you'll have to satisfy me. It's a small price to pay, considering what I could do to you if I wanted to." Lady Xia shuddered at the implied threat, but still, she hesitated. "But I can't, I've never." "Enough," Wang Jian interrupted, his voice hardening. "You're a woman, aren't you? You know what to do. And believe me, you'll enjoy it. Just think of it as a way to repay me for my mercy. Lady Xia bit her lip, her mind racing. She knew she had no other choice, but the thought of doing something so intimate with this man repulsed her. Still, she couldn't deny the fire that had been lit inside her, the intense pleasure that had coursed through her body when he had touched her before. Maybe, just maybe, he was right. Besides, it wasn't as if he had left any choice for her. As Lady Xia obediently unbuttoned Wang Jian's pants, her eyes fell upon his impressive member that stood at full attention. Its size and girth were enough to make her heart race, and she couldn't help but marvel at the difference between this and her husband's modest endowment. It was as if Wang Jian's manhood had been designed to satisfy a woman's every desire, and Lady Xia couldn't resist the temptation to run her hands along its length, marveling at its firmness and power. Wang Jian ordered, "Use your mouth." Wang Jian's order echoed in Lady Xia's mind as she looked up at him hesitantly. She had never done this before, and the thought of putting his member in her mouth made her feel disgusted and humiliated. But at the same time, she knew she had no choice but to comply. She slowly leaned in and placed her lips on the tip of his member, feeling the heat and hardness of it against her mouth. She closed her eyes and tried to think of something else, anything else, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the act at hand. Wang Jian watched her with a predatory gleam in his eyes. He guided her head with his hands, moving her mouth up and down his shaft as he groaned in pleasure. Lady Xia tried to suppress her gag reflex as she took more and more of him into her mouth. She flicked her tongue over the tip of his cock, tasting the salty precum that had gathered there. New chapters will be fully updated at novl/bin.com. The sensation made her feel sick. But as she continued to suck and lick him, she could feel him growing harder and bigger. Wang Jian moaned with pleasure, his hands tangling in her hair as he urged her to take more of him into her mouth. Lady Xia hesitated for a moment, then slowly opened her mouth wider and took him deeper, her tongue working to pleasure him as best she could. As she worked her mouth up and down its length, Lady Xia felt a mix of shame and arousal wash over her. Wang Jian groaned with pleasure as she worked, his hips thrusting gently in time with her movements. Lady Xia could feel his member growing even harder in her mouth, and she knew it wouldn't be long before he reached his climax. Finally, with a loud cry of pleasure, Wang Jian reached his peak, spilling his seed into Lady Xia's mouth. She swallowed it down, trying to ignore the bitterness of it as she continued to suck him gently, coaxing every last drop from him. As he pulled away from her, Wang Jian looked down at her with a satisfied smirk. "You see? That wasn't so bad, was it?" he said, his voice dripping with condescension. Lady Xia spoke up, her voice trembling slightly, "Your Highness, I have kept my end of the deal. I have satisfied you as you asked, so please, let me go now." With a wicked smirk, Wang Jian looked down at Lady Xia and replied, "I never said I was satisfied." Lady Xia's heart sank at his words. She had hoped that by bringing him to climax, he would be satisfied and let her go. But now she knew that was not the case. "What else do you want from me, Your Highness?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Wang Jian gazed down at Lady Xia's ample breasts with a lustful glint in his eyes. "Why don't you put those beauties to use, my dear?" he suggested with a wicked smirk. Lady Xia hesitated for a moment, feeling a pang of shame and humiliation at the suggestion. "This will be the last time." She tentatively reached up and wrapped her large breasts around his shaft, sliding them up and down in a slow, sensual rhythm. Wang Jian let out a low groan of pleasure, relishing in the sensation of her soft flesh against his hardness. "That's it, my dear," he encouraged, his hands resting on her shoulders to guide her movements. "Use those slutty tits to make me come." As Lady Xia pleasured Wang Jian with her breasts, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of guilt. She thought of her daughter and what she would think of her actions. Lady Xia knew that what she was doing was wrong, but she couldn't bring herself to stop. Despite her internal struggle, Lady Xia continued to move her breasts up and down, rubbing them against Wang Jian's hard shaft. She could feel him getting closer and closer to climax, and she knew what was coming next. Finally, with a deep groan, he erupted between her breasts, coating them with his seed. As Wang Jian's seed coated Lady Xia's breasts, she felt a mix of disgust and shame wash over her. She couldn't believe she had let herself be used in such a way, all for the sake of her daughter's safety. But her thoughts were cut short as Wang Jian spoke with a calm yet wicked voice. "That was still not enough. It seems you need to use your legs," he said, a devilish glint in his eyes. Lady Xia recoiled at his suggestion. "No, I cannot do that," she protested, her voice barely above a whisper. But Wang Jian was not deterred. "I won't insert it in your pussy, but between your thighs." I will only rub the head of my dick against your pussy. Don't worry, you can trust me, he said, his tone dripping with depravity. Lady Xia felt a wave of guilt wash over her once again. She had already gone this far, what was a little more? But deep down, she knew it was wrong. She couldn't bring herself to willingly engage in such lewd acts. I cannot, she said firmly, her voice shaky but resolute. Wang Jian's eyes narrowed, his face contorting with anger. You dare to refuse me? Are you going back on your word? If so, I will punish you. You won't try to insert it inside, will you? Lady Xia asked, sounding hesitant and unsure. Of course, I won't. Wang Jian responded instantly. Okay, Lady Xia finally responded. Slowly, hesitantly, she raised her legs and spread them apart, exposing herself to him. Wang Jian moved closer to her, his member twitching with anticipation. He positioned himself between her legs and began to rub the head of his dick against her pussy, just as he had promised. Lady Xia felt a rush of pleasure mixed with shame and guilt as he continued to rub himself against her. She could hear his heavy breathing, could feel the heat of his body against hers. As Wang Jian thrust between Lady Xiao's thighs, she couldn't help but let out a few moans of pleasure. Her body was responding to his every move, and her pussy was already dripping with wetness. Wang Jian noticed her arousal and gave her a wicked grin before placing his hand on her thighs and spreading them even further apart. Lady Xiao's heart raced as she realized what was about to happen. What are you doing, Your Highness? She asked nervously. But before she could finish her question, a sharp pain pierced through her body as Wang Jian's member entered her tight pussy. She let out a scream of both pain and pleasure as the sharp sensation slowly converted into a deep, intense pleasure. Wang Jian chuckled, enjoying the sensation of her tight walls gripping his shaft. Don't worry, my dear, he said seductively. I'll make sure you enjoy every moment. Lady Xia could feel her body trembling as Wang Jian began to thrust inside her pussy with increasing speed and intensity. Her moans grew louder and more desperate with each thrust, her body responding to his every move. She knew she shouldn't be enjoying this, but her arousal was too overwhelming to resist. As the pleasure grew more and more intense, Lady Xia couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt and shame. She was betraying her daughter and going against everything she had ever stood for. But in that moment, all she could think about was the overwhelming pleasure that Wang Jian was giving her. Oh, Your Highness, she moaned, unable to contain herself any longer. This feels so good. He leaned in closer to her, his face just inches away from hers. With a cruel glint in his eyes, he whispered, Say it. Say that you belong to me. That you are my slave. Only then will I allow you to come. Lady Xiao's mind was in a haze of pleasure and guilt. She couldn't believe what was happening to her, and yet her body was betraying her. She felt the urge to orgasm building within her, and she knew that Wang Jian's demand was the only way she would be allowed release. I am yours, she gasped out, her voice barely audible above the sound of their bodies slamming together. Wang Jian's face twisted into a wicked smile, and he increased his pace, thrusting deeper and harder into Lady Xia. Louder, he commanded, say it louder, so everyone in the palace can hear you. Lady Xiao's face flushed with shame and humiliation as she repeated his words, louder this time, I am your slave. Wang Jian's grip on her hips tightened as he felt himself reaching his own peak. That's it, he growled, come for me, my slave. Lady Xia let out a loud moan as she reached her climax, her body convulsing in pleasure. As she came down from her high, she couldn't help but feel a sense of shame and regret wash over her. Why you lied? Why you put it inside even though you told me you won't? She complained. I didn't hear you complaining at that time, Wang Jian responded instantly with a smirk. Now, let's change the position, he said. Lady Xia obediently got onto her hands and knees, presenting her backside to Wang Jian. He stroked his thick member along the crevice of her ass, teasing her before finally slipping it into her wet and waiting pussy. Lady Xia moaned with pleasure as he began to thrust into her deeply, his hands gripping her hips tightly. The room was filled with the sound of their flesh slapping together as Wang Jian continued to pound into her relentlessly. The night seemed to stretch on endlessly as Wang Jian indulged in Lady Xiao's body, exploring every curve and crevice. With each passing moment, he found himself drawn deeper into her irresistible allure, captivated by the way her body moved and responded to his touch. As the hours ticked by, he lost all sense of time, consumed by an insatiable desire to possess her in every way possible. The mere sight of her sent a rush of heat through his veins, driving him to new heights of pleasure and passion. Despite the exhaustion that threatened to overtake him, Wang Jian couldn't bring himself to stop. He was entranced by Lady Xiao's beauty, her every movement a tantalizing invitation to indulge in her sinful delights. And so it went on, until the sun began to rise, and the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, illuminating the tangled sheets and spent bodies of the two lovers. Wang Jian finally allowed himself to rest, a satisfied smirk playing across his lips as he reveled in the memory of the night's forbidden pleasures. Meanwhile, a look of defeat and hopelessness had taken over Lady Xiao's eyes as she realized that her efforts to resist Wang Jian were futile. It dawned on her that the man she was dealing with was utterly devoid of morality and compassion, a pure embodiment of monstrous traits. You should understand your position in the palace now. It's that of a sex slave. Don't worry, your daughter will enjoy the benefits brought by your efforts, Wang Jian spoke with a sinister smile. After a night of endless debauchery, both Wang Jian and Lady Xiao were finally able to rest, and it wasn't until late afternoon that they both woke up. Lady Xiao's body was aching from the roughness of the night before, and she was barely able to move. Wang Jian, on the other hand, was his usual self, cold, calculated, and devoid of any emotions. He took a quick bath and left without saying a word, leaving Lady Xiao alone to recover. As she lay there in pain, Lady Xiao couldn't help but reflect on what had happened to her. The shame and guilt she felt were overwhelming. She knew that she had betrayed her daughter's trust and had given in to her carnal desires. The memories of Wang Jian's massive member inside her body made her shudder, and she couldn't shake off the feeling of disgust. Despite her physical pain and emotional turmoil, Lady Xiao knew that she had to face the consequences of her actions. The only way she could think of making amends was by ensuring that her daughter would benefit from this. Meanwhile, Wang Jian was walking down the hallway when he received the system notification. The system has been upgraded. What are the improvements? Wang Jian asked curiously. The system has 2 new functions. And has also upgraded a couple of techniques. The first function is the ability to create and manage the Black Castle. The host now has the power to erect a Black Castle in any location across the world. The host can teleport to it at will, except when the spatial laws in the region are sealed. The Black Castle is fortified by a potent barrier that can withstand attacks from opponents of equal or lower cultivation levels. Additionally, the host can cultivate various herbs in the Black Castle, which would experience rapid growth acceleration, resulting in a bountiful harvest. The second function is the ability to acquire and master more elements. The host has the capability to acquire and proficiently control another elemental power by harnessing the energy from the essence of the respective element. The source of this essence could vary, ranging from potent herbs to elemental essence stones, making it easier for the host to collect them. It should be noted that the potency of the element would heavily depend on the quantity of elemental essence collected and absorbed by the host. The condition of absorbing the element is that the host's body must be strong enough to endure the pure power of that element. Other than these functions, 3 abilities have also been upgraded. True Eyes, Level 2. The host can now see favorability and loyalty along with the luck status of any individual. Twin-headed Dark Flame Python, 6-star Spirit, Mutated, Dark Flame Double-headed River Dragon, 7-star Spirit, Mutated. As Wang Jian received this notification, he experienced a strange sensation from his dantian. It was the twin-headed Dark Flame Python. Its 2 heads grew larger and more pronounced, and its scales became a deep, shimmering black that seemed to absorb all the light around it. The snake's body started to bulge, growing thicker and longer until it filled the entire space within his dantian. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, the serpent began to transform. Its body elongated and twisted until it formed a shape more like that of a dragon. The creature's scales now gleamed with a fiery red light, and a pair of wings unfurled from its sides, each covered in razor-sharp spines. The 2 heads now looked more menacing than ever before, with rows of sharp teeth that seemed to glow with otherworldly power. This was the Dark Flame Double-headed River Dragon. You have unlocked a new ability known as the Dragon's Prestige. This ability is a manifestation of the awe-inspiring presence of dragons, capable of instilling fear and respect in the hearts of those who witness it. When activated, the user radiates a powerful aura that exudes intense pressure, causing even the bravest of opponents to tremble and falter. Advanced Soaring Dragon Technique, Level 4. The host's ability to absorb chi from the environment is greatly enhanced, allowing for even faster cultivation. Additionally, the host's senses are heightened to an unprecedented level, with a significant upgrade to their spiritual sensitivity. The host has now unlocked the ability of Enhanced Strength. The host's physical strength is greatly increased, allowing them to lift heavier objects and deliver more powerful strikes. Name, Wang Jian. Age, 20 years old. Destiny points, 489,765. Cultivation, first stage of the Lord Realm. Cultivation technique, Soaring Dragon Technique, level 4, requires 500,000 destiny points to level up. Skills, Origin Fist, Beam of Destruction, Mystic Force, Divine Shielding Iron Body, Enhanced Strength, Spiritual Sensitivity, Moonrise Fist, Lunar Shield, Moonshadow Step, Shadow Manipulation, Dark Fog, Eclipse Domain Annihilation, Tranquil Mind Divine Mantra, Black Castle, Elemental Genius, and Dragon's Prestige. Ocular Abilities, True Eyes, Level 2, 200,000 destiny points. Bloodline, Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Bloodline. Second level, next level, 500,000 destiny points. Physique, Chaotic Young Body, Dormant. Spirit, Dark Flame Double-Headed River Dragon, 7-star Spirit, Mutated. Weaknesses, Holy Attribute. Solar Attribute. Wang Jian's strength received a significant boost, and his combat abilities greatly expanded due to the upgrades he received. He commanded his servants to gather all the lightning elemental beast cores that he had accumulated after obliterating the horde of lightning beasts. Among these beast cores was the coveted thunderbolt behemoths. Wang Jian had slain an impressive 35 beasts in the fierce battle, with the majority of them belonging to the Origin Realm. However, there were a few Spirit Realm beasts, and their leader was a formidable Lord Realm beast. After assimilating the essence of all these beast cores, Wang Jian was able to awaken the lightning element within him. The potency of this lightning element paled in comparison to his primary elements, rendering him only able to generate minuscule sparks. During this period, Su Xian instructed the group of 9 women on the intricacies of cultivation techniques, enabling them to take their first official steps towards cultivation. Visit N0VL/BIN. For the best novel reading experience. Certain individuals demonstrated greater aptitude than others, as they effortlessly channeled and assimilated the qi in their surroundings. Wang Jian procured the necessary materials and resources for the spirit awakening ceremony and successfully awakened Fen Shuiying's spirit. To Wang Jian's surprise, her spirit manifested as a deadly shadow dagger, which would aid her in concealing her energy and provide a sharp boost to her qi. Fen Shuiying was overjoyed to have successfully awakened her spirit. Accompanied by Wang Jian, she proceeded to her mother's quarters to share this delightful news. Lady Xia's body was still racked with soreness despite spending most of the day recuperating. She could hardly move, and it was almost nightfall when she heard 2 knocks on her door. Despite the pain coursing through her body, she managed to drag herself to the door and open it. A bitter smile formed on her lips when she saw her daughter and Wang Jian standing before her. As the 3 of them stood in the chambers, the air was thick with tension. Lady Xia tried her best to conceal the pain she was experiencing. Fen Shuiying, on the other hand, was beaming with joy as she proudly informed her mother that Wang Jian had helped her awaken her spirit. Lady Xia forced a smile and looked at Wang Jian, who was smirking. "Thank you for your help," she said through gritted teeth. Wang Jian took her hand and rubbed it lightly, sending chills down her spine. "It was my pleasure," he said with an evil grin. Lady Xia quickly withdrew her hand and changed the subject. "My dear, tell me more about your spirit," she said, trying to distract herself from the discomfort she was feeling. Fen Shuiying eagerly launched into an explanation of her spirit, completely unaware of the tension in the room. Meanwhile, Wang Jian's eyes were fixed on Lady Xia, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. After Fen Shuiying finished explaining the details of her spirit, she looked at Wang Jian and said, "Let's go." Wang Jian smiled at her and said, "Sure." Wang Jian and Fen Shuiying make their way towards the door, ready to leave Lady Xia's chambers. However, before they can step out, Lady Xia speaks up. "Wait," she says, her voice laced with hesitation. "I would like to talk to you, Your Highness. In private." Fen Shuiying looks at her mother, confused, but nods and steps out of the room, closing the door behind her. Wang Jian turns to face Lady Xia, a sly grin on his face. "What can I do for you, Lady Xia?" he asks, his tone dripping with insinuation. Lady Xia grits her teeth, trying to maintain her composure. "I want to make something clear," she says, her voice tense. "Whatever happened between us last night must remain a secret." Wang Jian raises an eyebrow, his grin widening. "Of course, my dear," he says smoothly. "Our little tryst shall remain between us. I am a man of discretion, after all." Lady Xia narrows her eyes at him. You should be, she says coldly. Because if anyone were to find out about what happened, it would not bode well for us. Wang Jian's grin turns into a sneer. Don't worry, my lady, he says, his voice oozing with malice. Your secret is safe with me. But I must say, I do enjoy our little arrangement. You're quite the fiery one. Lady Xiao bristles at his words but tries to keep her emotions in check. I am doing this for the sake of my daughter, she says through gritted teeth. She cannot know about what happened between us. It would destroy her. Wang Jian chuckles. Oh, I would want that, he says mockingly. But do keep in mind, my lady, that I have my own desires. And if you do not comply with them, well, let's just say, your secret might not be so safe after all. Lady Xiao pales at his words, realizing the true extent of Wang Jian's power over her. She nods, her eyes downcast. I understand, she says quietly. Wang Jian smirks, pleased with himself. Excellent, he says. Now, if you'll excuse me. He turns on his heel and strides out of the room, leaving Lady Xiao alone with her thoughts. Wang Jian met Fan Shuang outside the room, who looked at him with a puzzled expression. What did my mother want to talk to you about? She asked. Wang Jian smiled at Fan Shuang, trying to ease her concerns. Your mother just wanted to talk about something important. She was asking whether my father, the emperor, would have any issues in accepting you as his daughter-in-law. I assured her that it would be all right. Fan Shuang smiled gratefully at Wang Jian, feeling grateful for his help. Thank you for everything you have done for me, she said softly. Wang Jian's lips curled into a wicked grin. That's not enough. If you really want to show your appreciation, come with me to your room. Fan Shuang's cheeks flushed with excitement as she realized what he was suggesting. I would like that, she stammered. In her room, the two lovers shed their clothes and embraced passionately. Fan Shuang eagerly took Wang Jian's member into her mouth, eagerly exploring every inch of him with her tongue. Wang Jian moaned in pleasure, savoring the sensation of her hot, wet mouth on his shaft. As Fan Shuang continued to pleasure him, Wang Jian ran his fingers through her hair, his breathing becoming heavier. That feels amazing, he groaned, his eyes closing in ecstasy. Fan Shuang looked up at him with a mischievous glint in her eyes. You like that, don't you? She teased, before taking him back into her mouth. Wang Jian couldn't help but let out a low growl of pleasure as she continued to work her magic. Gods, you're good, he muttered, his fingers tightening in her hair. Fan Shuang hummed in satisfaction, feeling a sense of pride at the effect she was having on him. She increased the intensity of her movements, taking him deeper into her mouth. The room was filled with the sounds of their pleasure, with Wang Jian's moans growing louder and Fan Shuang's own breathing becoming labored. Eventually, after several minutes of intense pleasure, Wang Jian finally came, his seed spilling into her mouth. Fan Shuang swallowed every last drop of Wang Jian's seed, savoring the salty taste on her tongue before looking up at him with a satisfied smirk. Satisfied? She asked, her tone playful. Wang Jian's eyes glittered with a wicked gleam as he responded, Oh, my dear, this is just the beginning. He took her by the hand and led her to the bed, where he slowly pushed her down onto the soft mattress. With one hand, he began to rub her pussy, teasing her with light touches that made her squirm with pleasure. He leaned in close to her ear and whispered, You're so wet for me, my love. Fan Shuang moaned softly in response, her hips bucking involuntarily as he continued to play with her. She could feel his member growing harder against her thigh, and she knew that it wouldn't be long before he was inside her. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He positioned himself between her legs and slowly began to push his way inside her, inch by inch. Fan Shuang let out a gasp and a moan as she felt his massive member stretching her open, filling her up completely. She wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him in deeper as he began to thrust, each movement sending waves of pleasure coursing through her body. It was as if they were the only two people in the world, lost in the heat of their passion. As they moved together in perfect harmony, Fan Shuang knew that she would do anything to keep this feeling alive forever. Wang Jian's grip on her hips was firm as he pulled her onto him again and again, his thick member sliding in and out of her with a slick, wet sound. Fan Shuang arched her back, her fingers digging into the sheets as she moaned in pleasure. As he continued to thrust into her with increasing urgency, Wang Jian's mouth moved to her neck, nibbling and biting at the sensitive skin there. Fan Shuang gasped and whimpered, the sensations overwhelming her. Please, she breathed out, harder. Wang Jian obliged, pounding into her with greater force and speed. The sound of their flesh slapping together filled the room, mingling with their moans and gasps. Fen Shuang could feel her orgasm building, the heat and pressure coiling tighter and tighter in her core. Finally, with a loud cry, she came, her body convulsing as she clamped down on Wang Jian's member. He groaned in response, his own release not far behind. With a final thrust, he spilled himself inside her, the sensation of his hot seed filling her, sending Fen Shuang into another wave of pleasure. Top VL updates on n/o/v/lb/in.com. Ready for round 2? He asked with a wicked glint in his eyes. Fen Shuang moaned in response, her body already responding to his touch as he began fondling her breasts and trailing his fingers down her stomach. As he entered her once again, Fen Shuang felt her body ignite with desire. Every thrust sent shockwaves through her body, and Wang Jian knew exactly how to push her buttons. He grabbed her hips and pounded into her with increasing ferocity, making her scream his name with every thrust. The two continued like this, going at it for another 10 rounds, their bodies entwined and drenched in sweat. Wang Jian was relentless, taking her over and over again until she was delirious with pleasure. At one point, as he smacked her ass hard, Fen Shuang turned around and begged him, "Please don't stop, don't ever stop." Wang Jian just grinned and responded, "Don't worry, I won't. I have so much more in store for you." And he kept his promise, fulfilling his sadistic desires by spanking her. Fen Shuang loved every minute of it, unable to resist his insatiable appetite for domination. Finally, after the 12th round, they collapsed on the bed in a sweaty heap, both of them completely spent. Wang Jian held her tightly, whispering sweet nothings in her ear as they drifted off to sleep. In the morning, as they woke up tangled in each other's arms, Fen Shuang couldn't help but feel grateful for the incredible night they had shared. That very night, Wang Jian was in receipt of a letter from his mother conveying the emperor's decision that nullified his exiled standing. Now that he had received this confirmation, Wang Jian was forced into deep contemplation. Activate True Eyes. Display the favorability and loyalty of the following targets. Targets are Su Xian, Fen Shuang, Kong Huiyan, Han Shifeng, and Lady Xia. Status. Su Xian. Favorability, 80. Loyalty, 80. Fen Shuang. Favorability, 70. Loyalty, 75. Kong Huiyan. Favorability, 40. Loyalty, 70. Han Shifeng. Favorability, 0. Loyalty, 39. Xia Hongqi. Favorability, 0. Loyalty, 50. Alert! Han Shifeng's loyalty rating has dropped below 40, indicating that she may betray the host if presented with the opportunity. So a loyalty score below 40 means she is not entirely trustworthy. I must take steps to address this, Wang Jian murmured with a sly grin. He was taken aback, though, by Kong Huiyan's 40-point favorability and her high loyalty towards him. Given how he had treated her in the past, the score seemed unreasonably high. He couldn't help but ponder on this for a moment, realizing it may be due to sparing her father's life during the meeting. I should boost my strength now, Wang Jian decided. He had 489,765 destiny points at this moment and required 190,000 destiny points to reach the King Realm. Follow the latest novels n/velbin.com. Use my destiny points to help me break through to the King Realm. Wang Jian commanded the system. It didn't take long before Wang Jian's cultivate began to rapidly rise as that mysterious energy combined with his sea of qi. The second stage of the Lord Realm. The third stage of the Lord Realm. The fourth stage of the Lord Realm. The fifth stage of the Lord Realm. The sixth stage of the Lord Realm. The seventh stage of the Lord Realm. The eighth stage of the Lord Realm. The ninth stage of the Lord Realm. As Wang Jian's cultivation was on the verge of reaching the King Realm, a notification from the system popped up. Warning! The host cannot elevate his cultivation level directly to the first stage of the King Realm. You must gain a slight insight into a specific law. What the heck? Why didn't you mention this requirement before? Wang Jian exclaimed in frustration, feeling deceived by the system. Note, the host can gain insight into a law through enlightenment, or the system can provide it for the price of 100,000 destiny points. Wang Jian couldn't help but think that the system was created or managed by someone with a profit-oriented mindset. Well, I don't really have much of a choice right now, Wang Jian muttered under his breath. Purchase an insight of a law, Wang Jian commanded the system. Which law would the host like to gain insight into? The flame law? The fist law? The sword law? The devil law? The dark law? The shadow law? Or the lightning law? Out of all these options, Wang Jian was particularly interested in the flame law. He believed that it would be the most beneficial addition to his combat abilities, granting him a significant boost in his attacks. The flame law, Wang Jian decided. After deducting 100,000 destiny points, Wang Jian's mind was injected with extensive knowledge about flames. The knowledge that he obtained appeared profound, and just a slight insight was enough to overwhelm his mind. He learned about the different levels of flames and their properties, from the low-level flames that burned everything indiscriminately to the high-level flames that could even incinerate the soul. He also gained an understanding of the intricate relationship between the laws of fire and other elemental laws. The knowledge he obtained about the compatibility of fire with other elements was overwhelming. It appeared that every element had its own unique interaction with the flames. Additionally, Wang Jian learned about the different flame techniques that he could cultivate, including the basics of manipulating flames, creating flame weapons, and defensive flame techniques. The knowledge he received was not limited to the physical properties of the flames but also included the spiritual and metaphysical properties of flames. Overall, Wang Jian was amazed at the depth of knowledge he had received about the laws of flames. He realized that even with just a slight insight, he had gained enough knowledge to last him a lifetime of cultivation. Wang Jian's Sea of Qi was inundated with potent flames, which could now be merged with his regular qi to make his attacks even more lethal. Proceed to upgrade my cultivation to the first stage of the King Realm, Wang Jian commanded. In no time, he felt a mysterious energy merging with his Sea of Qi, and his cultivation began to advance swiftly. The flames in his Sea of Qi erupted in response, empowered by Wang Jian's newfound insight into the profound laws of flame, overwhelming his senses. The dark flame double-headed river dragon was able to withstand the sudden influx of flame energy within Wang Jian's Sea of Qi due to its high rank. If it were still at the 6-star rank, the dark attribute would have been significantly suppressed by the overwhelming surge of flame energy. After advancing his cultivation to the King Realm, Wang Jian exuded a newfound confidence in his capacity to confront and overcome any challenges that may arise upon his return to the everlasting mystic empire. Name, Wang Jian. Age, 20 years old. Destiny points, 199,765. Cultivation, first stage of the King Realm. Cultivation technique, Soaring Dragon Technique, level 4, requires 500,000 destiny points to level up. Skills, Origin Fist, Beam of Destruction, Mystic Force, Divine Shielding Iron Body, Enhanced Strength, Spiritual Sensitivity, Moonrise Fist, Lunar Shield, Moonshadow Step, Shadow Manipulation, Dark Fog, Eclipse Domain Annihilation, Tranquil Mind Divine Mantra, Black Castle, Elemental Genius, and Dragon's Prestige. Ocular Abilities, True Eyes, Level 2, 200,000 Destiny Points. Bloodline, Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Bloodline. Second level, next level, 500,000 destiny points. Physique, Chaotic Young Body, Dormant. Spirit, Dark Flame Double-Headed River Dragon, 7-star Spirit, Mutated. Weaknesses, Holy Attribute. Solar Attribute. The following day, Wang Jian beckoned Han Shifeng to his chambers, intending to engage in a serious discussion with her. As Han Shifeng stood before him, her nerves were palpable. It was understandable, given that Wang Jian had taken her virginity while extorting her tribe, and she had no idea what reason he could have for summoning her now. Wang Jian, aware of her discomfort, decided to break the ice. "Do you hate me?" he asked, cutting straight to the point. Han Shifeng didn't mince her words in response. "Considering what you did to my people and me, should I not hate you?" Her tone was icy and filled with disdain. Wang Jian acknowledged her justified anger, but he wanted to know the full extent of it. "I understand why you would hate me, but I want to know the specifics," he said, his voice calm and measured. Han Shifeng's response was scathing. "Isn't it evident? You violated me while extorting my tribe. Moreover, you killed my lover, and it appears that everything was part of your grand scheme. You targeted us all from the beginning, and you used me to get Fen Shuiying's heart and body. I cannot comprehend how Su Xian could be in love with a person like you. However, her attitude makes it apparent that she, too, fell victim to your reprehensible schemes." As Wang Jian continued to process Han Shifeng's words, he realized that he needed to take a different approach to manipulate her. He understood that she was a smart and strong-willed woman, and he couldn't just use brute force or conventional manipulation tactics on her. Instead, he decided to use the psychological principle of cognitive dissonance to make her feel responsible for her own actions. He started the conversation by discussing the motives behind his actions, mentioning how everything he did was to protect himself from his enemy, Lin Feng. You must understand, Han Shifeng, Wang Jian said, Lin Feng was my enemy. He wanted me dead, and I couldn't just sit back and wait for him to kill me. If not for him, I would never have targeted your tribe or anyone else. Han Shifeng listened to him intently, nodding slightly in agreement. She knew firsthand how powerful Lin Feng could be and how dangerous it was to be his enemy. Get the L test vels on no/v/elben.c/om. Wang Jian then continued, I did what I had to do to destroy my enemy completely. And I know you inadvertently helped me acquire Fan Shuiying's love. This statement caught Han Shifeng off guard, and she shook her head in confusion. What do you mean? How did I help you? Wang Jian calmly replied, by signing that deal with me to kill her father and then even lying to her that it was none other than Lin Feng who did it, you helped me get closer to her. I saw her vulnerability, and I used that to make her mine. Han Shifeng's expression changed from confusion to shock. She never realized her actions could have such consequences. I never thought of it like that, Han Shifeng finally admitted, her voice shaking slightly. I guess I am responsible for what I did to Fan Shuiying. Wang Jian nodded, satisfied with his progress. He knew that by making her feel guilty, he could potentially make her more compliant to his desires. Now that we understand each other, he said, I hope we can work together towards a better future for both of us. Your assumption is misguided. I will never collaborate with you, Han Shifeng retorted with a frigid tone. Wang Jian regarded Han Shifeng with an air of annoyance. Your stubbornness is unnecessary and foolish, he remarked coolly. Consider this, you've already committed the worst. At this moment, your tribe is aligned with me, and it's in their best interest to remain that way. We'll be departing this region shortly and returning to the mainland. He adopted a solemn expression. In the everlasting mystic empire, numerous sects, clans, and associations will be displeased when your tribe returns. The allocation of resources and territory will change accordingly, prompting them to target you. Think about it, who can save you from their assaults? Only me. Han Shifeng listened intently to Wang Jian's words, considering the truth in what he said. After a moment of contemplation, she spoke up. You make a compelling argument, she admitted, her tone softer than before. But how can I trust you? You have already shown that you are capable of great deceit and manipulation. Wang Jian's expression remained impassive. I understand your concern, but I give you my word. I will never harm your Miracle Angel tribe as long as you remain loyal to me. Our alliance will only strengthen our positions and ensure our safety. Han Shifeng hesitated for a moment before finally nodding in agreement. Very well, she said. I accept your offer. But remember, any harm that comes to my tribe will result in dire consequences. Wang Jian nodded in acknowledgement, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. I would expect nothing less, he said. Wang Jian rose from his seat and strode towards Han Shifeng, his face twisted into a sly grin. Well then, it seems that our serious talk has come to an end, he said, his voice low and menacing. Han Shifeng instinctively recoiled from him, taking a step back. Why are you approaching me like that? She asked, her voice shaking with fear. I didn't agree to anything like that. Wang Jian's expression darkened. This is our personal matter, he growled, and you don't have a say in it. You're already mine, whether you like it or not. With that, he lunged towards her, his arms snaking around her waist and pulling her close to his chest. Han Shifeng struggled, but his grip was too strong. Wang Jian merely chuckled, pressing his body even closer to hers. Relax, my dear, he whispered into her ear. I'm just claiming what's mine. And soon, you'll see that you want it just as much as I do. Wang Jian's cunning scheme had failed to win over Han Shifeng's favor, but it had undoubtedly bolstered her loyalty towards him to a considerable degree. Her loyalty score had climbed to a respectable 60, which was satisfactory for the time being. Wang Jian had the capability to act in a way that would have earned him Han Shifeng's favor, but he deemed it unworthy to forego the benefits he had already secured. Therefore, he resorted to manipulation to ensure that she remained submissive to him while maintaining her loyalty. In the ensuing days, Wang Jian dedicated himself to honing the spirits of his female companions. Despite being proficient in the origin realm, their aptitude for harnessing their spirits remained rudimentary at best. In what seemed like a mere blink of an eye, a week had gone by, and during this time, Wang Jian had been occupying different chambers every night. On the first night, he was with Su Xian, followed by Fan Shuang on the second night, Kong Huyan on the third night, Han Shifeng on the fourth night, and Lady Xia on the fifth night. Although some of the women did not have romantic feelings towards him, they gradually became accustomed to these nightly activities with Wang Jian, which became almost routine. Wang Jian had two compelling reasons for staying in the Jingguan region and delaying his return to the everlasting mystic empire. Firstly, he waited for all the women under Su Xian's tutelage to advance to the spirit realm, which happened swiftly. Even the slowest among them only took 5 days to accomplish this task. The second reason was more critical. He needed the 3 tribes to gather all the valuable resources available in Jingguan region, resources that were considered rare and almost extinct outside the region. These resources included rare herbs, sand, and other valuable materials that could only be found in this area. Unbeknownst to Wang Jian, word of his return from exile had spread like wildfire throughout the everlasting mystic empire during the past week. Rumors and whispers had circulated among the various sects, clans, and associations, sparking curiosity and fear alike. Soon, Wang Jian's preparations were finally complete, and he was ready to lead the 3 tribes out of the Jingguan region. A massive procession followed them, with each tribe's members trailing behind them. The procession was so long that it took up the entire road, and the sound of their footsteps echoed in the air. The carriages that carried their belongings were intricately designed, and adorned with intricate patterns and colors. They were packed with various resources and treasures that they had gathered during their time in the region. These resources were essential for the survival and growth of their tribes in the everlasting mystic empire. As Wang Jian and the 3 tribes made their preparations to leave, the residents of the Jingguan region breathed a collective sigh of relief. They had endured Wang Jian's harsh rule with little hope of a reprieve, but now they saw a glimmer of hope for their own rise to power. As they watched the caravan of carriages depart, they began to plot and scheme, eager to establish their own dominance in the region. Wang Jian's iron-fisted rule had held them back, but now they were free to pursue their own ambitions. Wang Jian sat in the carriage, looking out at the passing scenery, while his 5 women sat around him. Su Xian and Fan Shuang were sitting next to him, while Kong Huyan and Han Shifeng appeared hesitant. Su Xian was the first to break the silence. "Your Highness, can you tell us more about the everlasting mystic empire? You mentioned that there are 4 great empires and that we are from one of them, but I don't know much about the others." Wang Jian nodded. "Of course, my love. The everlasting mystic empire is one of the 4 great empires of the continent. We have dozens of vassals, and the royal family resides in the capital. The royal family possesses the greatest influence and commands a powerful army, administration, excellent weapons, armor, limitless wealth, and resources. After the royal family, the religions possess the greatest influence." Fan Shuang chimed in. "What are the 3 primary religions in the world, Your Highness?" Wang Jian smiled. "The Church of the Divine Light is a prominent religion in the everlasting mystic empire, which worships a deity known as the Divine Light. The Crimson Cult is a mysterious and secretive group that practices a dark and twisted form of worship. And the Way of the 4 Winds is a diverse religion that draws from various spiritual practices." Kong Huyan spoke up, her voice hesitant. "What about the sects? You mentioned there are 4 major sects in the everlasting mystic empire. Can you tell us more about them?" Wang Jian nodded. "Yes, of course. The Heavenly Blade sect is a martial arts sect known for its swordsmanship. The Celestial Dragon sect is a mystical sect that specializes in magic and divination. The Lotus Blossom sect is an all-female sect known for its beauty and grace, as well as its formidable combat skills. And the Jade Serpent sect is a notorious assassin sect feared throughout the empire." Han Shifeng finally spoke up, also hesitant. "And the various associations? What are they?" Wang Jian smiled at her. "There are many associations, including but not limited to, the Tao of Alchemy Society, the Heavenly Amulet Masters Association, the Celestial Talismans Guild, the Silk Road Traders, the Lotus Assassins, the White Lotus Society, and the Brotherhood of the Steel Fist." Lady Xia remained silent, not asking any questions, but her eyes were fixed on Wang Jian with a mixture of fear and animosity. Wang Jian noticed Lady Xia's intense gaze and turned to her with a sly grin. "What about you, Lady Xia? Do you have any questions about the everlasting mystic empire?" Lady Xia shook her head and looked away, her heart racing. She had to be careful not to give away her affair with Wang Jian in front of the other women. She couldn't let them suspect anything. Wang Jian raised an eyebrow. "No questions? That's unlike you, Lady Xia." Lady Xia forced a smile. I'm just enjoying listening to everyone else's questions and your answers, Wang Jian. Wang Jian chuckled. Well, if you insist. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Fen Shuiying looked at Lady Xia and spoke, maybe my mother is just shy, Jian. Lady Xia shot her daughter a glare, but Wang Jian laughed. Ah, yes, that might be true. Discover W stories on no/e/lbin.com. Fen Shuiying giggled. But she's also strong and fierce like a tiger. Wang Jian nodded, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Indeed, my dear Shuiying. Lady Xia is full of surprises. Lady Xia gritted her teeth, feeling the heat rise in her cheeks. She had to change the subject before Wang Jian could tease her any further. Wang Jian, what about the neighboring empires? Do they have their own religions and sects? Wang Jian nodded. Yes, they do. The Blue Moon Empire, for example, has the Jade Emperor's Temple as its primary religion, and the Heavenly Thunder sect is a renowned martial arts sect. The Golden Sun Empire has the Church of the Sun God as its main religion, and the Dragon's Breath sect is a powerful mystical sect. The Red Phoenix Empire has the Phoenix Temple as its primary religion, and the Burning Blade sect is a notorious assassin sect. Su Xian leaned in, her eyes shining with curiosity. What about the smaller kingdoms and tribes outside the four great empires? Do they have their own religions and sects? Wang Jian nodded. Yes, they do. Some have their own unique religions and practices, while others follow the religions and sects of the larger empires. It's a diverse and complex world out there. As the women listened to Wang Jian's descriptions of the everlasting mystic empire, they were filled with awe and wonder at the vastness of the world beyond their familiar Jingguan region. With each passing moment, their curiosity grew, and they eagerly peppered him with questions about the empire's intricate political system, its powerful military, and the diverse cultures and religions that flourished within its borders. As Wang Jian regaled them with stories of his travels across the empire, they hung on his every word, enchanted by the vivid images he painted of the bustling cities, the verdant forests, and the soaring mountains that he had seen. They could hardly believe that there existed a world so rich and varied beyond their own small corner of the continent. After traveling through the dense forest for almost 2 days, the group finally reached the outskirts of the Jingguan region, where they encountered a mysterious blue barrier. Discover W stories on no/e/lbin.com. Wang Jian, being well-equipped, revealed a treasured artifact gifted by his mother that possessed the ability to create a dimensional rift within the barrier. It took several moments of careful manipulation for the device to activate, and it ultimately succeeded in creating an opening. The carriages cautiously passed through the opened barrier. As they passed through the barrier, they found themselves amidst a vast crowd of armored soldiers. Their attire was indicative of them being the royal guards of the everlasting mystic empire, specifically members of the prestigious Iron Fist. Wang Jian, with his knowledge of the empire, quickly identified them. The Iron Fist was a group of elite warriors who held strict ranks and answered directly to the royal family. Each member possessed an incredible amount of power, with even the weakest among them being at the origin realm. Those below the Lord realm were merely common guards, while the Lord rank cultivators held the major realm. The King realm cultivators, the most powerful of them all, held the general realm. It was evident that the Iron Fist was a force to be reckoned with. The gathering of Iron Fist members outside the barrier indicated the presence of someone from the royal family. As Wang Jian surveyed the crowd, he spotted a luxuriously decorated carriage bearing the insignia of the emperor's concubine. A wide grin spread across his face, and he turned to his women to share this news. "It seems like my mother has arrived," he exclaimed. "We should make haste and go meet her." Su Xian and Fen Shuiying exchanged glances, their faces flushing with embarrassment. They wanted to make a good impression on their potential mother-in-law, the emperor's concubine. On the other hand, Kong Huiyan, Han Shifeng, and Lady Xia appeared troubled and conflicted. They were unsure of how to behave in front of someone of such high stature, and their anxiety was palpable. Lady Xia, in particular, was tense and apprehensive. "Let's get out of the carriage," Wang Jian suggested. Well, his suggestion was more like an order. Very soon, they left the carriage and were standing on the ground. After they left the carriage, the Iron Fist kneeled in front of Wang Jian as they paid their respects to him. "Get up," Wang Jian commanded lightly. His eyes were actually fixated on that luxurious carriage. Very soon, the gate to that carriage opened. As Bai Li Qin stepped out of her elaborately decorated carriage, her long black hair cascaded down her back in loose waves. Her brown eyes were bright and sparkling, and her features were refined and elegant. She was dressed in an incredibly luxurious royal dress embroidered with gold and silver thread and adorned with precious gems. The dress flowed around her like a river of silk and trailed behind her as she walked towards Wang Jian. Her appearance exuded regal grace, and it was evident that she had the bearing of a queen. As she approached, she smiled warmly at Wang Jian, and her eyes twinkled with pride. "My son, it's so good to see you again," she said as she hugged him tightly. Wang Jian hugged his mother back and smiled widely. "Mother, it's been too long since we've last seen each other." As Bai Liqin approached Wang Jian's carriage, she couldn't help but admire the other women who were with him. She turned to her son and asked, "Are all of these beautiful women your companions?" Wang Jian couldn't help but feel amused by his mother's directness. "Yes, mother. Except for Lady Xia here, who is actually my wife Fen Shuiying's mother." "I see," Bai Liqin replied, taking in Lady Xia's presence. She then turned towards the other women and jokingly said, "Well, you should greet your mother-in-law properly, shouldn't you?" Su Xian and Fen Shuiying blushed with embarrassment but quickly got down from the carriage to bow respectfully to Bai Liqin. Kong Huyan and Han Shifeng also followed suit, though their expressions were more troubled and unsure. Bai Liqin smiled warmly at all of them, taking in their different personalities and appearances. She was impressed by their beauty and poise but also curious about their backgrounds and talents. "I'm pleased to meet you all," she said graciously. "I hope we can get to know each other better in the days to come." The women all bowed in respect to Bai Liqin, greeting her with warm and polite words. Bai Liqin smiled at them, pleased with their behavior. "I'm happy to see that my son has found so many wonderful women," she said, her eyes sparkling with pride. "You are all welcome to the everlasting Mystic Empire. I hope you enjoy your stay." Wang Jian grinned at his mother's words, feeling grateful for her warm welcome. "Thank you, mother," he said. "We are honored to be here." Bai Liqin turned her attention to Lady Xia, who still looked unsure of how to act around her. "And you, Lady Xia," she said. "I'm happy to meet the mother of my daughter-in-law. Please don't feel uneasy around me. We are family now." Lady Xia nodded her head, feeling a bit more relaxed. "Thank you, Your Majesty," she said. "I am grateful for your kindness." Bai Liqin smiled at her again. "There's no need to be so formal," she said. "Just call me Bai Liqin. We are family, after all." Her gaze then shifted to Wang Jian, and with a soft voice, she spoke, "I have brought a fleet of 12 majestic griffins and a group of 7 winged wyverns. The griffins will serve as our steeds, while the winged wyverns will take charge of carrying the other carriages and cargo." "That would be a wonderful idea, mother," Wang Jian spoke. Bai Liqin, Wang Jian, and his women took their designated seats on the majestic griffins, ready for their flight to the everlasting Mystic Empire. The griffin under Wang Jian was quite spacious and allowed him to sit comfortably alongside Su Xian, Fen Shuiying, Han Shifeng, Kong Huyan, and Lady Xia. Wang Jian's mother, Bai Liqin, rode a griffin alone, with an air of regal elegance. The members of the Iron Fist were quick to follow her lead and climb onto the other 10 griffins, their imposing figures fitting perfectly with the majestic birds. When Bai Liqin offered Lady Xia a ride on the griffin with her, Wang Jian stepped in and remarked that his mother's rough riding style might not suit Lady Xia. Although Bai Liqin raised an eyebrow in doubt, she knew her son was merely giving an excuse. After all, her riding skills were impeccable. Bai Liqin looked at Lady Xia and then back at her son, understanding the real reason behind his words. A knowing smile appeared on her face as she agreed with him and allowed Lady Xia to ride on the same griffin as Wang Jian and his women. Wang Jian occupied the rearmost spot on the griffin, while Su Xian settled in the foremost position. Fen Shuiying took her place behind Su Xian, Kong Huyan behind her, and Han Shifeng behind Kong Huyan. Finally, Lady Xia secured a spot just ahead of Wang Jian. The griffin soared higher and higher, and the wind became more and more intense. Wang Jian's women, including Lady Xia, couldn't help but revel in the sensation of flight. They marveled at how the world looked from above and the freedom they felt in the sky. Suddenly, Lady Xia felt Wang Jian's arm wrap around her waist and slide under her top, caressing her soft skin. She felt a jolt of panic but didn't want to make a scene in front of the others. So, she asked in a hushed voice, "What are you doing, Your Highness?" Wang Jian's face came close to hers, and he whispered, "Just enjoying the ride, my dear. Can't I show a little affection to my lover?" Lady Xia was taken aback by his words. She hated their adulterous relationship but knew she had no choice in the matter. She could only respond with a forced smile and say, "Please, Your Highness, not now." We're in public. Wang Jian's chuckle was soft, his warm breath caressing Lady Xia's ear. No need to fret. We're ahead of the other griffins, so no one can see what I'm doing, he whispered. To them, I'm just steering the griffin with these ropes, but they have no idea that my feet can do all the work. These ropes are merely decorative. He further whispered into Lady Xia's ear, you should focus on controlling your moans. We wouldn't want anyone to hear, would we? Lady Xia's heart raced with a mixture of fear and arousal as Wang Jian's fingers explored her body. She hated the way he made her feel, but she couldn't deny the pleasure he was giving her. She clenched her teeth and bit down on her lip to keep from making any noise. Wang Jian's touch became more aggressive as he pinched and squeezed her breasts. Lady Xia's body betrayed her as she grew hot and flushed with desire. But even as she tried to resist him, a small part of her couldn't help but enjoy the illicit thrill of their secret rendezvous. Abruptly, Wang Jian ceased his lascivious advances towards Lady Xia, retracting his hands from her body. The reason for this sudden halt was that he had discerned other griffins drawing near, their flight path intersecting with theirs at an angle that would make his behavior quite conspicuous. As Wang Jian's hands retreated, Lady Xia let out a breath of relief. Yet, a tiny fraction of her longed for more of his touch. Her body yearned for his caresses, and her mind was consumed with the passion that he had ignited within her. Despite the swift pace of the griffins, the journey to the capital was arduous and prolonged, spanning over the course of 5 long days. After flying continuously for 4 hours, the group would stop to rest not because the griffins lacked stamina, but rather to allow the winged wyverns to catch up and take a break as well. During these intervals, Wang Jian conversed with his mother, seeking to grasp the shifts that had transpired in the empire since his exile. He inquired about various individuals who had emerged as noteworthy talents and hidden geniuses. Wang Jian's primary objective in seeking information about these individuals was to discover a protagonist among them. Son, there is one talent that has risen extremely swiftly, Bai Liqin began. His name is Zhang Fei. He is from the Windhaven Kingdom. That's one of our vassal kingdoms. In fact, it's one of our weakest kingdoms, Wang Jian commented as he fell in deep thought. Bai Liqin cleared his throat before continuing, Zhang Fei was born to a reputed clan in Windhaven Kingdom. He had a fiancée, but he was a trash of the clan, so she broke the engagement with him. Wang Jian raised an eyebrow in curiosity. Why did she break the engagement? Because Zhang Fei was weak and deemed unworthy of the clan's name, Bai Liqin explained. Bai Liqin took a deep breath before answering, it's a bit of a mystery, but it seems that after his engagement was broken, Zhang Fei suddenly began excelling in many different fields, including martial arts. He even struck a deal with local associations, and his clan's influence and power rose rapidly. Wang Jian furrowed his brow in thought, interesting. Do you have any idea how he managed to strike such a deal? Bai Liqin shook her head, no, the details are still unclear, but it seems that Zhang Fei has some powerful connections in the alchemist community, the Array Association, the trade organizations, and many other groups. Wang Jian leaned forward, impressive. But what about his enemies? Surely he must have made some powerful enemies if he had risen so swiftly. By this point, he was sure that Zhang Fei was a protagonist. Explore new levels on nvelbai.com. And since Zhang Fei was a protagonist, he ought to have lots of enemies and must have destroyed many clans and even factions. Bai Liqin's expression grew grave. Many clans and associations have fallen to Zhang Fei's might, she said. The Li clan, a powerful family that had ruled over a large swath of the kingdom for generations, fell to him when he used his connections in the alchemist community to poison their leader. The Azure Dragon Association, a group of powerful cultivators, also fell to him when he defeated their top cultivators in battle. Curious about the Windhaven Kingdom's ruling faction, Wang Jian asked, under whose territory does the Windhaven Kingdom fall? Bai Liqin was quick to respond, it's your 9th brother, Wang Lan. Wang Jian suppressed the urge to roll his eyes as he recalled Wang Lan's arrogant personality. He suspected that this guy would most likely be a villain and serve as a stepping stone for Zhang Fei. With all the gathered information, Wang Jian crafted a strategy to confront Zhang Fei. But first, he needed to test the waters with the protagonist. Based on the available information, Wang Jian inferred that Zhang Fei was a reincarnated individual and probably had expertise from his past life. However, it was difficult to gauge the true extent of his power. Thus, it was imperative for Wang Jian to uncover Zhang Fei's cheat or any other advantage he possessed. Soon, the group's brief rest came to an end, and they mounted the griffins once more, soaring through the skies towards the capital as swiftly as they could. The 5-day journey seemed to pass in an instant as Wang Jian and his companions arrived at the magnificent royal capital of the everlasting mystic empire, named Arya. The bustling city was filled with vibrant colors and sounds, as merchants and nobles went about their daily business under the watchful eyes of the imperial palace. The grandeur of the architecture was breathtaking, with towering spires and ornate decorations adorning the buildings. Wang Jian's female companions were in awe at the grandeur of the city. Su Xian's eyes widen as she looks at the breathtaking city. The capital is truly magnificent. I have never seen such beauty before. Fen Shuiying's mouth opens slightly as she takes in the sight before her. This is the capital? It's like a dream. Kong Huiyan gasps softly as she looks around, her eyes sparkling with wonder. Everything looks so grand and majestic. It's hard to believe we are actually here. Han Shifeng's heart races with excitement as she sees the magnificent buildings and ornate decorations. The architecture is truly a work of art. This is the pinnacle of human achievement. Wang Jian replied with a sense of pride, just wait until your eyes fall upon the royal palace. Its magnificence surpasses everything you've seen so far. As they continued their flight for an hour, the group caught sight of the royal palace, a grand structure perched atop a hill overlooking the capital. The palace was an enormous structure, with towering walls made of white stone that glittered in the sunlight. The walls encircled a vast complex of buildings, including multiple courtyards, pavilions, and gardens. The main entrance to the palace was an impressive gatehouse, adorned with intricate carvings and inlaid with gold. Beyond the gatehouse was a long, wide avenue lined with majestic trees and beautifully manicured gardens. The avenue led directly to the main palace, a towering structure with multiple tiers and numerous domes. Each tier was adorned with elaborate carvings and sculptures, while the domes were covered in shimmering tiles of gold and blue. As they drew closer, Wang Jian's group could see that the palace was teeming with activity. Soldiers in ornate armor patrolled the walls and courtyards, while courtiers and servants bustled about their duties. The palace itself seemed to radiate an aura of power and majesty, an impressive symbol of the everlasting mystic empire's might and wealth. Wang Jian said, "Behold, the royal palace of the everlasting mystic empire. Truly, it is a marvel to behold." His women were truly awestruck at the magnificence of the palace. After landing, everyone dismounted their griffins. Bai Liqin approached Wang Jian and spoke in a soft tone, "I shall escort the ladies to their chambers. So, go and greet your father, the emperor." "Thank you, mother," Wang Jian replied with gratitude as he strode off towards the palace gates. As soon as Wang Jian reached the gates of the palace, he broke into a sprint, his heart pounding with excitement and anticipation. The guards stationed there, recognizing him, quickly opened the gates to let him through. Wang Jian didn't even spare them a glance as he raced through the courtyard, his long strides eating up the distance. Finally, he arrived at the emperor's chambers, where he found his father, Emperor Liang, seated on his throne. With a deep bow, Wang Jian greeted him and said, "Father, it is an honor to see you again. I cannot express how grateful I am to you for rescinding my exile and allowing me to return to the capital." The emperor's face softened as he gazed at his son, pride evident in his eyes. "Jian, my son, it is good to see you again. We are pleased that you have returned to the capital, where you belong. It was a grave injustice to exile you, my son," the emperor said with a heavy heart. "We understand your motive to avenge your mother's attack, and we, too, had the urge to punish that damned diplomat. However, the constraints of our position rendered us helpless." Wang Jian could not help but suppress a derisive scoff. He was fully aware that the emperor's statement was nothing but a blatant falsehood. Despite the monarch's contrite expression, Wang Jian knew that the emperor was merely trying to placate him. Explore new novels on nvelbai.com. "Father, your words fill me with great pride and joy," Wang Jian replied with gratitude. The emperor paused for a moment before asking, "We have heard that you have subjugated the 3 tribes that were exiled to the Xinguan region. Are they truly loyal to you?" Wang Jian replied with confidence, "Yes, father. They have pledged their allegiance to me and are willing to join my faction." The emperor nodded in approval, impressed by Wang Jian's leadership and diplomacy. "Excellent news. The return of these tribes shall undoubtedly augment the power of our empire. Yet, their comeback may not be well received by other clans and associations in our domain. Therefore, we bestow upon you full jurisdiction over them, my son. But be wary, for if the word of their return reaches their detractors and they face danger, we shall be powerless to aid them," declared Emperor Liang with a solemn tone. Wang Jian sensed the emperor's subtle warning hidden behind the opportunity. He gracefully bowed and spoke, "I am honored by your graciousness, your majesty. Rest assured, I will ensure the safety and prosperity of the tribes under my authority. Their growth and progress shall reflect the strength of our great empire." The emperor gave a small nod, acknowledging Wang Jian's words, "We have faith in your abilities, my son. But you must remember that there are those who will not welcome their return. You must be cautious and discreet." Wang Jian's expression grew solemn as he spoke, "I understand, father. I will do everything in my power to accomplish this task." The emperor gave him a reassuring smile, "We have no doubt that you will, my son. Now, go and rest. You must be weary from your journey." With a final bow, Wang Jian turned and left the chamber, his mind already working on the plans for the future. Wang Jian strode purposefully towards his mother's chambers, eager to learn the current state of her territory. With each step, he could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. As he entered the room, he found Bai Li Qin, regal and imposing as ever, waiting for him. Wang Jian entered his mother's chambers, looking straight at her. "Mother, how is the territory?" he asked with concern. Bai Li Qin stood up from her chair and gave him a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, my son. Your territory is safe and prosperous. I have made sure of that," she said as she placed a hand on his shoulder. Wang Jian nodded gratefully before asking, "What is your plan now that I am back?" Bai Li Qin took a deep breath before responding, "I am relinquishing every bit of power over my territory to you. From now on, you will be in charge of everything." Wang Jian's eyes widened in surprise. "Mother, are you sure about this?" Bai Li Qin nodded firmly. "Yes, I am. I have complete faith in you and your capabilities, my son. You will make sure that the territory continues to prosper." Wang Jian couldn't help but feel a sense of pride wash over him. "Thank you, mother. I won't disappoint you," he said with a smile. Bai Li Qin then turned to her subordinates and said, "Summon everyone. I have an important announcement to make." As the subordinates entered the chambers, Bai Li Qin informed them of her decision to give power over her territory to Wang Jian. She instructed them to send the news out to all her subordinates to ensure that they would listen to her son's orders. As Wang Jian witnessed his mother give every bit of power over her territory to him, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over him. This was a major boon for his plans, as it saved him the trouble of starting his own faction from scratch. With this power now in his hands, he could focus on strengthening his position and consolidating his control over the region. Wang Jian spent the next few days in the royal palace as he gave his women a tour of the vast and opulent palace, showing them the intricately decorated corridors, the sprawling gardens, and the shimmering fountains. The women were amazed at the sheer scale and beauty of the palace, with its towering pillars, ornate ceilings, and colorful murals that seemed to come alive under the sun's rays. As they explored the palace, Wang Jian recounted tales of the palace's rich history, telling them of the great emperors who had once walked the same halls they now tread. They marveled at the ancient artifacts and treasures that adorned the palace, from intricately carved jade figurines to golden vases adorned with precious gems. For his women, who had never ventured beyond the rugged terrain of the Xinguan region, this was an entirely new experience. They were fascinated by the courtly culture and the sophistication of the capital's inhabitants. Even Kong Huyan, Han Shifeng, and Lady Xia, who harbored mixed feelings towards Wang Jian, couldn't help but feel awestruck by the grandeur of the palace. They were struck with a sense of inadequacy, feeling as though they paled in comparison to this illustrious prince. As he escorted his women around the palace, Wang Jian commanded his subordinates to scour the entire Windhaven kingdom for a comprehensive report on Zhang Fei. He also tasked them with compiling a detailed list of beautiful female cultivators who were affiliated with sects or associations in that kingdom and were related to him. A week later, Wang Jian received the report he had been waiting for. Wang Jian's eyes widened as he read through the report. "So, he is a core disciple of the Celestial Dragon sect," he muttered to himself. He turned the page and read further with a bland look as he gazed at the number of clans, towns, and even the individuals this guy had massacred. Soon, he finished reading that bit of information before moving on to the information regarding his women. "And he has a maid named Xiao Ling, who was ready to sell her body to provide a funeral for her clan. This is utterly ridiculous," Wang Jian exclaimed, unable to comprehend the situation. He shook his head in disbelief, wondering how such a bizarre turn of events could even occur. Wang Jian muttered, "Breaking her will be challenging." He read more and found out that this was just the start of this absurdness. Zhang Fei had another woman, and she was the daughter of the city lord where the Zhang clan resided. Qianwei Town. As Zhang clan rose with the help of Zhang Fei's palettes and techniques, they even defeated their bitter rivals, the Li clan, and completely destroyed them. The city lord of Qianwei town decided to invest in Zhang Fei and ordered his daughter, Meng Xiaoyi, to be in a relationship with him. Apparently, his daughter was fiercely against this order. However, during her expedition to the nearby forest to gather rare materials, beast hides, and cores, Meng Xiaoyi found herself in danger. It was then that Zhang Fei appeared like a hero, saving her life not once but multiple times. As a result, Meng Xiaoyi's initial hostility towards him transformed into admiration and love. However, this was just the start. Amidst his endeavors, Zhang Fei found himself drawn to another alluring beauty, Su Yuding, a member of the Tao of Alchemy Society. The young woman was none other than the granddaughter of the 11th elder of the association, known for its mystic proficiency in the field of alchemy. F0 Lo New Hapters at NOV/EL/BIN/.com. Due to her grandfather's wish for her to acquire hands-on experience, Su Yuding was stationed in the remote town of Qianwei to oversee the operations of the branch. As fate would have it, the timing of Zhang Fei's rise coincided with Su Yuding's presence in the town, leading them both down a path that binds their destinies together. The fourth was the third princess of the Windhaven Kingdom, Qin Yiyun. There was also information about the heiress of the silver-tailed fox clan from the Beastclaw Grove situated in the Windhaven Kingdom. Her name is Bishi Shuyan. Moreover, there were rumors that Zhang Fei had a couple of women even in the Celestial Dragon Association. Suddenly, a maid arrived and interrupted his musings. "Master, your friends are here to meet you," she announced. Wang Jian raised an eyebrow in curiosity before realizing who had come. He nodded in acknowledgement and quickly put the catalog away, making his way to the hall where his friends were waiting for him. Wang Jian's friends were notorious villains in the Arya capital city of the everlasting Mystic Empire. They were all born with a silver spoon in their mouths, as their fathers were influential members of various factions and associations in the city. One of his friends was named Xie Shiwei, the son of a high-ranking member of the Tao of Alchemy Society. He was a cunning individual with a talent for alchemy and often used his skills to further his own personal gain. Another friend of Wang Jian was named Luo Ying, the son of a powerful member of the Heavenly Amulet Masters Association. He was a charismatic and charming individual who often used his social skills to manipulate those around him. F0 Lo New Hapters at NOV/EL/BIN/.com. There was also Lu Yu, the son of a prominent member of the Celestial Talismans Guild. He was a skilled talisman, and his abilities in manipulating the elements were unmatched. Another member of their group was named Tang Xiaoyi, the son of a wealthy Silk Road trader. He was a greedy and selfish individual who often used his wealth to get what he wanted. Finally, there was Li Wei, the son of a high-ranking member of the Lotus Assassins. He was a cold and calculating individual who was known for his ruthless methods and complete lack of mercy. Despite their different personalities and backgrounds, the group of friends had one thing in common: their thirst for power and wealth knew no bounds. As soon as Wang Jian stepped into the room, Xie Shiwei's voice cut through the air like a sharp knife. "So, our prince finally returns. The 6 outlaws gang of Arya City can finally reunite. Our influence will once again be unmatched in the city," Luo Ying added with a grin on his face. Wang Jian noticed the smirks and excited expressions on their faces and couldn't help but feel a tinge of suspicion. "Something happened while I was gone?" he asked. A look of righteous indignation appeared on Lu Yu's face as he responded. "Ever since you were exiled, the officials in Arya City turned really strict. Even with our influence, they would just throw us out of their buildings. We couldn't mess around with anyone at all, let alone enjoy ourselves to the fullest." Tang Xiaoyi spoke up next, a hint of desperation in his voice. "Yeah, we were basically nobody without you. We didn't realize how much we relied on your power and influence until it was gone. Brother Jian, I require your assistance in a matter of utmost importance," Li Wei said, a hint of malice lurking in his voice. Wang Jian raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What is it that you require?" "It's a matter of a particular beauty from the Crimson Guards," Li Wei said, his eyes flashing with a mixture of anger and desire. "This bitch had the audacity to refuse my invitation and even went so far as to humiliate me in front of the entire restaurant." Wang Jian couldn't help but chuckle at Li Wei's arrogance. "And what do you propose we do about it?" Li Wei's expression turned sinister. "I want you to help me teach her a lesson she will never forget. Show her that no one, not even a member of the Crimson Guards, can disrespect me and get away with it. The group of friends exchanged smug glances as Luo Ying spoke up, his voice dripping with arrogance. We are the notorious 6 outlaws of Arya City, feared and respected by all. No one has the right to humiliate us. The others nodded in agreement, a sense of entitlement and superiority radiating from them. Xia Shiwei chimed in, our fathers hold power in their respective factions, and we are their rightful heirs. We are born to rule, and no one can stand in our way. Lu Yu added, those who dare to defy us will face the consequences. Wang Jian fell into a deep thought while wondering what he should do. But for the sake of it, he decided to go along with it. He was curious about this woman. Wang Jian's interest was piqued as he listened to his friend's conversation. What is her name? He asked, sounding intrigued. His friend smiled deviously, exchanging a knowing look. Finally, Li Wei spoke up. Her name is Major Guanyin. She holds a high position in the Crimson Guards, as a major in charge of a battalion. Wang Jian nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. So, where does she live? He inquired. She resides in the quarters of the Crimson Guards, Li Wei responded confidently. Wang Jian's expression became somber. That's troublesome, he said, even I can't cause a ruckus in that area. The Crimson Guards will be well within their rights to safeguard their territory's peace. It would be unwise to underestimate them. Don't worry, I thought of that. I had my underlings keep an eye on her and have her entire daily schedule with me, Li Wei said. He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket and handed it over to Wang Jian. Here it is, Brother Jian. Her entire schedule for the week. Wang Jian took the paper and examined it carefully. He nodded approvingly and said, impressive. You really did your homework. Of course, he did. He's been obsessing over this woman for weeks now, Xia Shiwei interjected with a smirk. Li Wei shot him a dirty look before turning his attention back to Wang Jian. I will do anything to teach her a lesson. No one dares to humiliate me like that and gets away with it. Luo Ying chimed in, we should make an example out of her. Tang Xiaowei added with a chuckle, and of course, we will make sure that we have some fun along the way. Wang Jian sat with his friends, analyzing Captain Guanyin's daily schedule. They had a map of the city in front of them, and Li Wei had provided them with the information he had gathered about the captain's routine. Let's see, Wang Jian said, pointing at the map. She patrols the Western District every Monday, the Eastern District every Wednesday, and the Southern District every Thursday. But on Tuesdays, she goes to the Red Light District. Interesting, Xia Shiwei said. That means we have a chance to catch her off guard. Exactly, Wang Jian agreed. But we have to be careful. The Red Light District is heavily guarded, and any misstep could get us into trouble. Luo Ying snorted. We've dealt with tougher situations than this. We just need to be smart about it. I agree, Lu Yu said. But what's our plan? Are we going to ambush her on the street? Wang Jian shook his head. No, that's too risky. We need to find a way to lure her into a trap. Tang Xiaowei spoke up. What if we stage a fight in the Red Light District? We can make it look like we're just a group of rowdy patrons, and then we can lure her in by pretending to need her help. Li Wei grinned. I like it. It's sneaky and underhanded, just like us. Xia Shiwei chimed in, but we can't risk being recognized. We're all notorious in the city, and it's not like we can just put on a disguise. Wang Jian nodded in agreement. We'll have to hire some thugs to pull off this act. Make sure they're experienced enough to not botch the job. Luo Ying smirked. I know a guy who's perfect for the job. He owes me a favor, and he's been itching for some action. Lu Yu raised a brow. Do you think we can trust him? We don't want him to rat us out to the guards. Li Wei scoffed. Please, I know the guy. He's a coward. He'll do whatever we want as long as we pay him enough. Tang Xiaowei added, we'll have to make sure to keep our distance and watch from afar. We can't let Captain Guanyin suspect anything. Wang Jian nodded, agreed. We'll have to be careful with our actions and make sure everything goes smoothly. As the group finished discussing their nefarious plan, they turned their attention to other matters. Xia Shiwei spoke up first. Our Tao of Alchemy Society's branches have been under attack by the Eastern Mountain bandits. They've been causing havoc and disrupting our operations. We must find a way to protect our members and assets. Luo Ying nodded in agreement. My father has been discussing forming an alliance with the Steel Talon mercenaries. They have a strong presence in the region and can provide us with much-needed support. Lu Yu added, my guild has been hosting a series of talisman tournaments, and we've been gaining a lot of attention and new members. It's been a great way to showcase our skills and attract like-minded individuals. Tang Xiaohui leaned back in his chair. I've been working on hosting a grand gathering of Silk Road traders to discuss new routes and opportunities. It's a great way to network and make important connections. Li Wei smirked. As for me, the Lotus Assassins have been making significant gains in the northern regions. We've secured several new strongholds and expanded our influence. The other factions will soon learn to fear us. As the group was discussing their matters, Li Wei looked at Wang Jian with a lecherous gaze and asked, Wang Jian, my dear friend, how are the women in the Forbidden Region? Did they satisfy your every desire? Xia Shiwei chimed in, I heard they have exquisite beauty and rare skills. You must share some of them with us, Wang Jian. We wouldn't want to miss out on such a delightful experience. Luo Yin, with a wicked grin on his face, added, yes, I'm sure they have many talents to show us. Why keep them all to yourself, my friend? Wang Jian, feeling disgusted by their behavior, responded coldly, are you really eyeing my women? The temperature of the room seemed to have dropped abruptly. The room fell silent as the other men looked at each other nervously. They knew they had crossed a line, and they were terrified of how Wang Jian might react. Xia Shiwei was the first to speak up, his voice trembling with fear. Wang Jian, we didn't mean anything by it. We were just joking around. Tang Xiaohui chimed in, trying to diffuse the tension. Yes, we were just messing with you. You know how we like to have fun. Lu Yu nodded in agreement, his eyes darting around the room. We didn't mean to offend you, Wang Jian. Please forgive us. Li Wei, who had been quiet until now, spoke up tentatively. We were out of line, Wang Jian. Please don't be angry with us. His friends breathed a collective sigh of relief and quickly agreed, eager to make amends for their inappropriate behavior. Of course, Wang Jian. We understand that we have overstepped our boundaries and we're sorry, said Tang Xiaohui, his voice filled with contrition. Lu Yu nodded in agreement, we will do whatever it takes to make it up to you. Just name your favor. Li Wei chimed in, consider it done, Wang Jian. We owe you that much. Luo Yin spoke up, of course, we owe you a great debt. Anything you need, just name it and we will do our best to assist you. Xia Shiwei nodded in agreement, yes, our friendship runs deep, and we will always support each other. Consider it done, Wang Jian. Wang Jian looked around the room, satisfied with their responses. Good. I'll let you know when I need your help. As the discussion with his friends came to an end, Wang Jian felt a sense of relief as he watched them leave the hall. Well, that was quite the meeting, he thought to himself. As he made his way out of the hall, he decided to pay a visit to Su Xian's courtyard. He had heard that she was conducting sparring sessions between her disciples, and he was curious to see their progress. As he approached the courtyard, he saw that Su Xian was indeed overseeing the sparring sessions. He watched in awe as the disciples showcased their martial prowess, their movements fluid and graceful. Upon seeing Wang Jian, these women immediately bowed respectfully. It was only after reaching the palace did they realize the true identity of their master. Wang Jian accepted their greetings while gesturing for them to stand up. He spoke solemnly, it has been a whole week since you have been here. I am sure you have realized that the qi in the surroundings is much denser compared to the Jingwan region. You will achieve twice the result with half the effort. Make sure to train earnestly and serve me, and you can enjoy a happy life, Wang Jian spoke confidently. All the women were excited to hear these words. They understood that if they continued their training earnestly, they could work for Wang Jian while staying in the royal palace. This was a heaven-sent opportunity, and they were planning to take complete advantage of it. Su Xian then ordered her disciples, continue with your training. She then turned towards Wang Jian and approached him. Am I doing well? She asked, a hint of shyness in her voice. You're doing wonderfully, Wang Jian replied with a loving pat on her head. And how is your spirit training coming along? Su Xian beamed with pride. I spar with Shuaying, Huyan, and Shifeng every day. My spirit is definitely the strongest. Wang Jian chuckled. That's fantastic to hear. Keep up the good work, my love. After spending some time talking with Wang Jian, Su Xian returned and oversaw her disciples' training. Wang Jian stood up and proceeded to leave. He was only here to observe the training and make sure everything was going smoothly. After a few minutes, he took his leave and walked towards Fan Shuiying's chambers. However, as he reached her courtyard, he saw that she was in the middle of her spirit training. Realizing he couldn't disturb her, he turned around and walked towards Lady Xiao's chambers. As Wang Jian entered Lady Xiao's chambers, he looked at her with a wicked smile on his face. Lady Xia knew exactly what he wanted, despite her dislike for the man. But even as she tried to push the thought of him out of her mind, her body betrayed her, and she felt a familiar heat spread throughout her body. Wang Jian's gaze never left Lady Xiao's ample curves, and she could feel his hunger as he approached her. The way he looked at her made her feel like nothing more than an object for his pleasure. But even as she struggled with these feelings of disgust and arousal, her body craved his touch. The night was filled with passion as Wang Jian took her again and again, each time with increasing force and intensity. Find the new ST levels on n/velben.com. Lady Xia moaned and cried out as he explored every inch of her body, leaving her spent and breathless. Despite her hatred for him, Lady Xia couldn't deny the pleasure that Wang Jian brought her. It was a feeling she couldn't resist, and as he finally left her chambers in the early hours of the morning, she knew that she would be unable to resist him in the future. The following day dawned with a swiftness, revealing a crisp Tuesday morning. With an air of determination, Wang Jian departed from the palace premises at an early hour to rendezvous with his nefarious comrades in Tang Xiaohui's restaurant. The time had finally arrived to execute their sinister scheme against Major Guanyin. As it was still daytime, Major Guanyin hadn't arrived yet. Her patrol time was around the evening. Thus, it was the perfect moment for Wang Jian to develop the scheme and handle the last-minute matters with his comrades. As Wang Jian met with his comrades in the restaurant, they quickly got down to business. "So, have you guys managed to hire a few groups?" Wang Jian asked, his eyes glittering with excitement. Xia Shiwei, the son of a high-ranking member of the Tao of Alchemy Society, spoke up. "Yes, I have managed to hire a group of young ruffians. They are willing to cause a disturbance in exchange for some of our society's secret alchemy techniques." Luoying, the son of a powerful member of the Heavenly Amulet Masters Association, chimed in next. "I have hired a group of mercenaries who are looking to gain entry into our association. They are willing to do anything for a chance to join our ranks." Lu Yu, the son of a prominent member of the Celestial Talismans Guild, nodded his head. "I have hired a group of thugs who are willing to cause chaos in exchange for some of our talismans." Tang Xiaohui, the son of a wealthy Silk Road trader, spoke up next. "I have managed to hire a group of local gangsters who are looking to expand their influence. They are willing to cause a scene for a share of the profits." Li Wei, the son of a high-ranking member of the Lotus Assassins, simply nodded his head. "I have hired a group of assassins. They are willing to do whatever it takes to gain entry into our organization." Wang Jian listened to their reports with satisfaction. Each of his friends had managed to find different groups that were willing to do their bidding in exchange for various incentives. It was the perfect plan. "Good work, everyone. Now, we just need to make sure that we stay hidden and that our involvement remains a secret," Wang Jian said, his voice low and dangerous. As the day wore on, they went over the plan in more detail, discussing the timing and the location of the chaos that they were going to cause. And as the sun began to set, they made their way to the red light district, where they would put their plan into action. As the evening went on, chaos erupted in the streets. The rowdy groups that Wang Jian and his friends had hired caused a disturbance, fighting amongst themselves and terrorizing the local residents. And as the chaos continued, Wang Jian watched from a distance, his identity hidden, a satisfied smirk on his face. It was the perfect plan. And it had all come together flawlessly. Major Guanyin and her team of Crimson Guards arrived on the scene to try and stop the violence, but they were outnumbered and quickly overwhelmed by the angry mob. The mob was out of control, smashing windows and setting fires in the streets. "Let's go!" Major Guanyin shouted to her team, signaling for them to engage the attackers. They charged forward, weapons at the ready, determined to stop the chaos. Meanwhile, Wang Jian and his comrades Xia Shiwei, Luoying, Lu Yu, Tang Xiaohui, and Li Wei watched from a safe distance. They saw an opportunity to take down Major Guanyin and her team, but they knew they couldn't take them head-on. So, they decided to wait for the Crimson Guards to tire out. Hour after hour, they watched as Major Guanyin and her team battled the mob, their bodies bruised and battered. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the Crimson Guards began to tire. They were breathing heavily, their movements slowing down. This was the moment Wang Jian and his comrades had been waiting for. As Wang Jian's comrades approached Major Guanyin and her team, nearly hundreds of cultivators followed them closely. These cultivators were their guards and also the trump card that would allow them to accomplish their objective. Up to dfrm no/v/e/lb I n.co/m. Wang Jian remained behind as he stared at Major Guanyin secretly. Major Guanyin exuded a bold and striking beauty. She was tall and statuesque, with a lithe yet muscular frame honed through years of rigorous martial arts training. Her long hair was jet black and tied tightly in a high ponytail, revealing her sharp, angular features. Her almond-shaped eyes were a piercing brown, and her full lips were set in a fierce and determined line. Her skin was smooth and bronzed, a testament to her countless hours spent training in the sun. Despite the grueling nature of her work, her face was unlined and her complexion flawless, imbuing her with an aura of youth and vitality. As she stood amidst the chaos, her crimson armor gleamed in the dim light, a stark contrast to the blackened buildings and debris littering the streets. The intricate design of her armor was both functional and decorative, highlighting the curves of her body and accentuating her feminine strength. Major Guanyin moved with fluid grace, her movements precise and purposeful. Despite her obvious physical prowess, she carried herself with quiet confidence, exuding an air of authority and commanding respect from those around her. Her beauty was not one of softness or fragility but rather of strength and determination, an embodiment of the warrior spirit that drove her to fight for what she believed in. Your team fought quite well. Unfortunately, it was all for naught, Li Wei's voice resounded. Major Guanyin and her entire team turned to the source of that voice, and their complexions paled as they saw hundreds of warriors in that direction. A few members of Major Guanyin's team recognized the youth standing at the forefront. They pointed their fingers while shouting in disbelief, "Why, you are the 6 outlaws of Arya City." Correct. And this entire scenario was caused by us. Haha. Luo Yin laughed as he revealed this bit of information. What are you doing here? Major Guanyin asked coldly. Humph. It's because of you that we are here, Major. You insulted our brother and actually refused his kind intentions? Today, we are here to take you with us. If you dare to refuse, the mercenaries behind us will immediately attack and slaughter your team. Xia Jiwei declared. While his friends continued to speak and threaten Major Guanyin, Wang Jian remained silent as he gazed at her while utilizing his True Eye's ability to check her luck. He received a notification from the system. Luck status. Host, 6981. Heroine Guanyin, 11435, rising. Guanyin had a rather high luck status, but it was only natural considering that she was a heroine. However, Wang Jian was curious about which protagonist was affiliated with her. Was it Zhang Fei who was in the Wind Heaven Kingdom or some other protagonist? Meanwhile, at this moment, Major Guanyin stood tall, her eyes flashing with anger. I refuse to be taken by a group of thugs like you, she spat out, her voice ringing with determination. Her team stood behind her, ready to fight to the death if necessary. You'll have to go through us first, one of them growled. Luo Yin sneered. Do you really think you can take us all on? Look around you, Major. You're outnumbered and outmatched. Xia Jiwei nodded in agreement. And don't forget the mercenaries we've hired. They're more than willing to spill blood for us. Major Guanyin took a step forward, her fists clenched. I don't care how many mercenaries you have or how many of your friends are with you. I will not be intimidated or threatened. Li Wei stepped forward, his expression cold. Then you leave us no choice. Attack! The air was thick with tension as the mercenaries were about to charge towards the exhausted Crimson Guards, their weapons ready. Suddenly, a voice boomed through the area, causing everyone to freeze in their tracks. Stop! Stop! The voice was deep and commanding, and it seemed to reverberate through the very ground beneath their feet. Even Wang Jian's comrades, who had been brimming with confidence just moments before, felt a chill run down their spines. As the voice echoed through the area, everyone present knew what it meant. The individual who spoke was a King Realm cultivator. Wang Jian arched his eyebrow as he turned his gaze in the direction of that voice. He glimpsed a well-built middle-aged man, garbed in the same armor as the Crimson Guards. The members of Guanyin's team couldn't help but cry out in joy and relief, it's the general. He's arrived to save us from this dire situation. We are safe now, added Major Guanyin. You bunch of troublemakers have some nerve targeting members of my faction. The general of the Crimson Guards spoke coldly. Wang Jian's comrades were absolutely terrified as they realized the identity of this man. Meanwhile, Wang Jian realized that this general was a helper who came to assist the heroine out of this predicament. Without hesitation, Wang Jian stepped forward and addressed the general directly. "Stop, General. I will take responsibility for their actions and take them away," he said firmly. The sudden appearance of Wang Jian stunned everyone present, and for a moment, the air was thick with tension and uncertainty. The general scoffed. "Take them away? Do you think you can just waltz in here and demand that I release your troublemaking friends? They have caused a great deal of chaos and destruction, and they must pay the price." Wang Jian's expression remained calm, but there was a hint of steel in his eyes. "I am the 7th prince of this kingdom. I demand that you release them into my custody." The general's lips curled in disdain. 7th prince or not, they are criminals who have disrupted the peace and caused damage to our city. They will not go unpunished. Wang Jian's jaw clenched, but he remained resolute. "If you do not release them, then you leave me no choice but to use force." The general's eyes narrowed, and he took a step forward. "Do you really dare to threaten me, boy?" Wang Jian met his gaze, unwavering. "Attack if you dare." The general's hand went to his sword, but he hesitated. This was the capital, and he knew that if it became known that he had attacked a member of the royal family, he would be hanged the next day. He glared at Wang Jian. "You may have once saved them today, but mark my words, troublemaker. Your friends will pay for their crimes, and there is nothing you can do to stop it." Your favorite ovals at n/vl/bin.com. Whatever. "Go away," Wang Jian swatted his warnings nonchalantly. As the Crimson Guards departed, Wang Jian's friends let out a collective sigh of relief. They rushed towards him, patting him on the back and thanking him profusely. "Wang Jian, you're a lifesaver." "We owe you one," Luo Yin said, grinning from ear to ear. "Yeah, you really bailed us out of a tight spot," Xie Shiwei added, his voice filled with gratitude. Wang Jian waved his hand dismissively. "It's no big deal. I couldn't just stand by and let you guys get hurt." Lu Yu couldn't help but express his disappointment. "What a shame. If that general hadn't appeared, we could have taken Major Guanyin away. She has such a tantalizing figure," he said with a hint of regret in his voice. Li Wei chimed in, "Indeed. It was the perfect opportunity, but now it seems we'll never get our revenge on her." Tang Xiaoli, always the optimist, spoke up. "Don't worry, guys. Our plan was a good one. We just have to be more careful next time." Wang Jian was impressed with his friend's resilience. They had just narrowly escaped a life-threatening situation, and yet they were already thinking of their next move. "You guys are something else," he said, a small smile playing on his lips. "But Wang Jian, what about you?" Lu Yu asked, turning to him. "You risked everything to save us. What if that general had attacked you?" Wang Jian shrugged off the question. "I'm the 7th prince. He wouldn't dare lay a hand on me, especially not here in the capital. He knows the consequences of attacking a royal." His friends nodded in agreement, but the thought still lingered in their minds. The Crimson Guards were a force to be reckoned with, and they couldn't be sure what they were capable of. Nevertheless, they walked on, heads held high, and minds already working on their next scheme. Wang Jian turned towards his friends, his expression resolute. "I have some matters to attend to in the palace. I will meet you all later," he announced, his voice steady and determined. His friends looked at him in surprise, not expecting him to leave so abruptly. "Is everything all right, Wang Jian?" asked Luo Yin, concern etched on his face. "Yeah. Everything is all right. It's just a small task," Wang Jian spoke. As he strode towards the palace, Wang Jian couldn't help but think about the events of the day. He had to find more information regarding this Guanyin and who was the protagonist related to her. Upon his return, he summoned his trusted subordinates and delegated tasks to them, instructing them to gather all the necessary information on Guanyin and her associates. The next morning, his subordinates arrived with a comprehensive report on Guanyin and her connections. Wang Jian was impressed with their efficiency and thoroughness. They had found out everything he needed to know, including her residence in Arya City and her close connections. As Wang Jian perused through the information on Guanyin, he found no mention of anyone that fits the description of the protagonist he was searching for. He pondered the situation thoughtfully. It's possible that the protagonist hasn't awakened yet, he mused. But he also knew he couldn't wait around for that to happen. He needed to take action. I can become the villain for her, he decided with a sly grin. He began to hatch a plan, muttering to himself, let's contact her parents and give them some exciting news. With a newfound determination, Wang Jian set to work on implementing his scheme. The following day, Wang Jian intended to send a letter to Guan Yin's home in Riverdale Town. But, as he was about to hand the letter to a servant, a maid arrived and announced, Your Highness, the third prince is here to meet you. Wang Jian was taken aback and thought the timing was suspiciously coincidental. Nevertheless, he resolved to meet with his third brother. As Wang Jian entered the living room, he saw his elder brother Wang Chen sitting there, wearing an expression of pleasant surprise. Jian, it's good to see you, Wang Chen said warmly. I thought I'd drop by and see how you're doing. Wang Jian smiled back, and his eyes narrowed ever so slightly. He knew his brother well enough to realize that this visit was not entirely innocent. It's good to see you too, brother, he replied, his tone carefully neutral. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to visit you yet. My friends have been keeping me busy. Ah, yes. Speaking of your friends. Wang Chen's voice trailed off, his eyes taking on a shrewd glint. I heard that they were involved in an ambush on Major Guan Yin of the Crimson Guards. Wang Jian's expression remained calm, but inwardly he felt a surge of alarm. How did his brother find out about that so quickly? And what did he want with the information? Yes, they were the perpetrators behind that ambush, Wang Jian said. Wang Chen narrowed his eyes and leaned forward in his seat. Interesting. And why did your friends target Major Guan Yin? Wang Jian hesitated for a moment, weighing his words carefully. They had a personal grudge against her. It was foolish and misguided, but I couldn't dissuade them from their plan. Wang Chen studied his younger brother's face for a moment before speaking again. I see. And what happened? Wang Jian's tone turned cold as he replied, the general of the Crimson Guards appeared, and I had to make an appearance to save them. Wang Chen's expression darkened as he fixed his gaze on his younger brother. Jian, let me make myself clear. Major Guan Yin is off limits. I have my sights set on her, he said in a stern tone. Is that a threat, elder brother? Wang Jian replied, his voice cool and measured. Wang Chen's lips twisted into a sneer. Take it as you will, little brother. But mark my words, if you continue to pursue Major Guan Yin, you will regret it. With that, he stood up from his seat, his gaze still fixed on Wang Jian. Remember what I said, he added before turning on his heel and striding out of the room. New N0vel chapters are published on N0v/e/lb/in co/m. Once he was gone, Wang Jian was left in deep contemplation. That was certainly eventful. So, Wang Chen is one of the villains who is after Major Guan Yin. This means he will act as a stepping stone for the protagonist. I should keep an eye on him. As the lunch hour approached, Wang Jian made his way towards the dining hall, where his women had already gathered. Su Xian and Fan Shuang's eyes lit up with excitement upon seeing him, while Kang Huyan and Han Shifeng appeared nervous. Lady Xia was also present, but her feelings towards Wang Jian were complicated. She loathed him for forcing himself upon her and turning her into a sex slave, but her body had begun to crave him. Her eyes flashed with a mixture of emotions as she saw him enter the room. Good afternoon, my ladies, Wang Jian greeted them with a smile. Good afternoon, Your Highness, Su Xian and Fan Shuang replied in unison, their voices laced with excitement. Kang Huyan and Han Shifeng greeted him nervously, their eyes darting between Wang Jian and Lady Xia. Lady Xia remained silent, her gaze fixed on her plate. Wang Jian sat down at the head of the table and gestured for his women to join him. As they began to eat, the room was filled with the sound of clinking silverware and the occasional murmur of conversation. Your Highness, how was your morning? Su Xian asked, trying to make small talk. It was eventful, Wang Jian replied with a smirk. I had a visit from my elder brother, the third prince. Is everything all right? Fan Shuang asked, her eyes widening in concern. Oh, everything is just fine, Wang Jian reassured her. He just came to warn me not to involve myself with Major Guan Yin of the Crimson Guards. Why would he warn you about that? Kang Huyan asked, her voice shaking slightly. Let's just say I messed with her a bit, and he came to inform me that he has his eyes set on her, Wang Jian said cryptically. Wang Jian soon changed the topic and conveyed to his women, "Furthermore, I want to inform you all that your clans will receive their allocated resources by midnight. Each clan will also receive 1,000 essence stones, which you must utilize to enhance your cultivation base to the peak of the origin realm." He then turned towards Su Xian and continued, "I suggest you distribute some of the essence stones to your disciples as well to enable them to enhance their cultivation swiftly." He presented 2 pills and gazed at his women and continued, "For all of you, I will be providing you with hundreds of these 2 pellets. These are the Qi Transformation Pellet and Blood Empowerment Pellet. They will facilitate a rapid increase in your cultivation level, taking you to the Lord Realm and then to the pinnacle of the Lord Realm." "Thank you, Your Highness. We won't disappoint you." Fen Shuiying was excited to hear this information. "Anything for my women," Wang Jian responded with a smile as his gaze swept over all of them. As the day progressed, representatives from each tribe arrived one by one to receive their allocation of resources from Wang Jian. The distribution included a variety of valuable items, such as rare herbs for healing injuries and enhancing cultivation, weapons and armor for protection, construction materials to build and fortify their homes, and tools for mining and gathering resources. Wang Jian also provided specialized resources tailored to each tribe's unique needs. For example, the Night Dagger clan received high-quality bows and arrows, while the Miracle Angel tribe received rare ingredients and equipment for their craft. In addition to physical resources, Wang Jian also offered guidance and support to the tribes, sharing his knowledge and expertise in cultivating the land, managing resources, and defending against potential threats. The tribes left feeling grateful and empowered, ready to make their mark in Arya City. As the tribes successfully established their stronghold in the capital, Wang Jian realized it was the opportune moment to depart for the Windhaven Kingdom. After 2 days, Wang Jian departed from Arya capital, accompanied by a griffin, en route to the Windhaven Kingdom. He left behind his women, each assigned a specific task to expedite the growth of their respective tribe. Fen Shuiying, with the assistance of Lady Xia, would develop the Night Dagger clan, utilizing the clan's expertise in assassination to create a wave of terror throughout the capital. This would increase their reputation, attract private contracts, and grow their tribe. Kong Huiyan's role was to manage the Crimson Mammoth warriors and join the local law enforcement department to eradicate the nearby bandits. The tribe's strength and vigor made them ideal candidates for this job, and their success would attract more missions to expand their tribe. The Miracle Angel tribe's expertise in healing was utilized by Han Shifeng to resolve illnesses and injuries among the people. Joining the army camps as healers, they aimed to demonstrate the usefulness of their tribe's expertise. Su Xian's role was of utmost importance. As the only one not affiliated with a tribe, she had to recruit female disciples to form a new faction. This faction would specialize in all forms of cultivation, including utilizing the arrays and talismans, ensuring that Wang Jian's women had protection and power in the cutthroat world of Arya City. Before leaving, Wang Jian entrusted his mother, Bai Li Qin, with the responsibility of ensuring the safety and well-being of his women in his absence. Your favorite ovals at n/vl/bin.com. He knew that his women were capable, but he also understood the dangers of being in a new and unfamiliar environment. As for Wang Jian, he was determined to move forward with his goals and ambitions, heading towards the Windhaven Kingdom with a griffin. He had a clear plan in mind, with specific objectives to achieve, and he knew that he needed to focus all his attention on achieving them. After 3 days of non-stop flying on his griffin, Wang Jian finally arrived at the Windhaven Kingdom, eager to further his goals and ambitions. Without wasting any time, he made his way straight to the royal palace. Wang Jian was well aware that his younger brother, Wang Lan, was currently residing there. Despite the royal family still being alive, their power was nearly insignificant, and they only had control over the imperial guards. All the other factions in the kingdom were under Wang Lan's control, making him the de facto ruler of the Windhaven Kingdom. As soon as Wang Jian entered the royal palace, he was greeted by his younger brother, Wang Lan. "Elder brother Jian. What a surprise to see you here. I did hear about your exile being revoked. Congratulations," Wang Lan said with a wide smile that didn't reach his eyes. Wang Jian returned the fake smile, knowing full well that his brother was up to something. "Thank you, Lan. I came here to Windhaven Kingdom to stay for a few days," he said in a polite tone. Wang Lan raised an eyebrow. "A few days? Is that so?" he said, his tone dripping with suspicion. "May I ask what brings you here?" "I have some business to attend to," Wang Jian replied vaguely. Wang Lan narrowed his eyes, trying to read his brother's expression. "Well, you know you're always welcome here. I'll make sure to have someone prepare a room for you," he said with a forced smile. Thank you, Lan. I appreciate it, Wang Jian said before turning to leave. But just as he was about to walk away, Wang Lan called out to him, "Wait, elder brother, I wanted to ask you something. Did you come alone? Where are your guards?" Wang Jian paused and turned back to face his younger brother. "Yes, I came alone. I don't need guards to protect me. I can handle myself just fine," he replied confidently. Wang Lan raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "I see. Well, if you need any assistance while you're here, don't hesitate to let me know," he said, a hint of insincerity in his tone. Wang Jian nodded politely. "Thank you, I appreciate it." And with that, he turned and walked away. Wang Lan's face lit up with a wide grin as he watched Wang Jian leave. The visit of his elder brother presented an opportunity he couldn't ignore, but he was well aware that he couldn't act hastily. If something happened to Wang Jian soon after his arrival in the Windhaven Kingdom, he would immediately become the prime suspect. Wang Lan needed to bide his time and wait for the perfect moment to strike. After departing from the palace, Wang Jian made his way towards Qianwei town. He had learned that most of Zhang Fei's companions hailed from this town, and he thought it would be a wise decision to establish his residence nearby. Wang Jian knew that constructing a mansion from scratch would be a daunting task, even for someone of his stature. However, he had a secret weapon up his sleeve: the system. He had obtained the necessary resources for constructing the Black Castle from the treasury of his mother's faction. Using these resources, Wang Jian erected the imposing Black Castle in a vacant clearing just outside of Qianwei town. After the construction of the Black Castle, Wang Jian eagerly wanted to inspect it. With his meticulous instructions, the system had crafted the castle according to his taste. The walls' color, the carpets' designs, the furniture pieces' placements, and every other aspect were exactly as he had commanded. In fact, the castle's layout and design surpassed even his expectations. He marveled at the grandeur and magnificence of his new home, a true symbol of his power and influence. Wang Jian was pleased with the customization options the system provided him. He knew he could further personalize the castle to his liking, adding or removing rooms and furnishings, changing the color scheme, or even implementing advanced security measures. Finally, a roof over my head. But I'll need at least a dozen maids, Wang Jian mused to himself, relieved to have a place to call home. He knew that living without the assistance of maids would be too much for him to handle. Recruiting new maids took up the rest of his day. He spared no expense to acquire the best, knowing that money could buy almost anything. After he had selected a dozen of the most capable candidates, he went back to his new home in the Black Castle. In the early days of Qianwei town, there were three major clans that held significant power and influence over the town: the Zhang clan, the Li clan, and the Meng clan. The Li clan was the first to rise to power, with a strong military force and vast wealth. They were renowned for their cunning and ruthless tactics, using any means necessary to maintain their dominance over the other two clans. Their arrogance and overbearing nature earned them a reputation as bullies, and they often looked down on those from the other clans. The Meng clan, on the other hand, was wealthy and well-connected, with many ties to the imperial court. However, they lacked a strong military force and were often overshadowed by the Li clan's might. In an attempt to increase their power and influence, the Meng clan arranged an engagement between their heiress, Meng Xiaoni, and the head of the Li clan. Meanwhile, the Zhang clan, led by the formidable Zhang Fei, was growing rapidly in power and influence. They formed alliances with various factions and began to challenge the Li clan's hold on the town. The Zhang clan was known for their fierce loyalty and uncompromising sense of justice, which earned them the support of many townspeople. As tensions between the three clans escalated, the engagement between Meng Xiaoni and the Li clan head was called off, causing further animosity between the Meng and Li clans. In a surprise move, Zhang Fei led a surprise attack on the Li clan's stronghold, completely destroying their power and leaving them in ruins. With the Li clan gone, the Zhang clan became the new dominant force in Qianwei town, and the Meng clan was forced to make alliances with them in order to maintain their position. Ariad updated stirise at n/vel/bin.com. The town flourished under the combined efforts of the Zhang and Meng clans, with new businesses and infrastructure projects springing up all over the town. The history of these three clans remains a testament to the ever-changing power dynamics of Qianwei town. Wang Jian's mind was churning with a plethora of strategies to weaken Zhang Fei's grip on Qianwei town. He was well aware that the crux of Zhang's power resided in his clan, so he made it his top priority to dismantle it piece by piece. With a cool and calculating demeanor, Wang Jian set out to sabotage the Zhang clan's strongest allies, starting with the Tao of Alchemy Society's branch in Qianwei town. Fortunately for him, it was an easy task. All he had to do was send a message to Xia Jiwei. Despite Xia Jiwei's notorious reputation in Arya City, he held significant influence within the Tao of Alchemy Society. His words carried weight, and he could quickly sever the alliance between the Zhang clan and the lowly branch in Qianwei town. Xia Jiwei could even forbid any aid from the Tao of Alchemy Society to the Zhang clan. Through a speed post, it took one whole day to reach this message to him. This message was sent through a gerfalcon to ensure it would reach the destination quickly. Wang Jian wasted no time after sending the message via gerfalcon. He promptly held a meeting with the other influential clans in Qianwei town, namely the Ji and Lin clans. Upon learning of his royal status, these clans welcomed him with great respect and hospitality. Wang Jian was pleased but did not let his guard down as he shared his intentions with them. He revealed that he had set in motion a plan to undermine the Zhang clan's power by breaking their alliance with the Tao of Alchemy Society's branch. Wang Jian was confident that with the Zhang clan's loss of support, a chance for the other clans to rise up would soon appear. He offered them the opportunity to accomplish great deeds in the upcoming battle against the Zhang clan, assuring them that the Tao of Alchemy Society's branch would be willing to support whichever clan emerged victorious. With this, the three clans began to strategize and prepare for the impending conflict, each hoping to be the one to claim victory and receive the coveted support of the Tao of Alchemy Society's branch. The following day, Qianwei City received 2 speed posts. One was addressed to Wang Jian, and the other to the branch of the Tao of Alchemy Society in the city. Xia Jiwei's letter to Wang Jian confirmed that the branch of the Tao of Alchemy Society was now under his command, and they would comply with all his directives. Moreover, Xia Jiwei had also sent a letter to the society's branch, bearing his father's seal. As a result, the society severed all connections with the Zhang clan and was forbidden from aiding them in any way. At this moment, the members of the branch of the Tao of Alchemy Society were bewildered by the sudden order sent by a high-ranking member of the main branch. It was the Grand Elder of the society who had given the order, and his word was as authoritative as that of the society leader. No one could dare to oppose it. Su Yuding, unable to comprehend the reason behind this order, sent numerous letters to her grandfather and father, urging them to investigate the matter. "I can't just stand by and do nothing," she muttered to herself. "I must protect Brother Fei's clan at all costs. How can I face him if something terrible happens to them?" Little did Su Yuding know that the Lin clan and the Ji clan had long been anticipating this moment. As soon as they received the news of the Zhang clan's severed connection with the Tao of Alchemy Society, they sprang into action. The 2 clans acted swiftly and launched a coordinated attack on the Zhang clan, encircling them from all sides. Despite being taken by surprise, the Zhang clan reacted promptly to the attack and set up a robust defensive mechanism to shield themselves from the assaults of the Ji and Lin clans. The attacking forces were stunned by the strength of the defensive array and struggled to penetrate it. However, the Zhang clan knew that the protective shield would not hold out for long, and they began to prepare a counterattack. The Zhang clan wasted no time in alerting Zhang Fei of the sudden attack by their enemies. They utilized a secret exit that led them to the Celestial Dragon Sex branch in a nearby city, from where they sent a message to Zhang Fei. Upon receiving the message, Zhang Fei sprang into action and hurriedly made his way to his hometown to defend his clan. Zhang clan elder's expression is one of outrage and indignation, his voice shaking with anger. "How dare you attack us without warning or reason? This is an act of cowardice and betrayal." Ji clan elder's tone is cold and calculating, his face impassive. "We don't owe you any explanation, old man. Our clan needs to grow and expand, and we won't let anyone stand in our way." Lin clan elder's voice is smooth and confident, his eyes gleaming with ambition. "Indeed. And we have reason to believe that the Zhang clan has been hoarding valuable resources and keeping secrets from the other clans. We demand an equal share of what rightfully belongs to all of us." Zhang clan elder's response is sharp and defensive, his eyes flashing with defiance. "That's ridiculous. We have always shared everything we have, and we have nothing to hide." Ji clan elder's reply is dismissive and challenging, his gaze locked on the Zhang clan elder. "Then why did you suddenly become so successful? Why do you have access to knowledge and techniques that no one else does?" Lin clan elder's voice is firm and resolute, his tone brooking no dissent. "We know that you have been hiding something, and we won't rest until we find out what it is. And if that means taking what we want by force, then so be it." Zhang clan elder's response is fierce and determined, his eyes blazing with conviction. "You are making a grave mistake. We will defend ourselves and our clan with all our might. We will not bow down to your threats and aggression." Ji clan elder's tone is confident and self-assured, his lips curling into a smirk. You are welcome to try. But know that we are prepared for anything you throw at us. Lin Clan Elder's voice is filled with conviction and zeal, his eyes flashing with excitement. Indeed. The other clans will soon join us in this fight, and then you will know the true strength of our combined forces. Zhang Clan Elder's reply is steadfast and resolute, his voice ringing with determination. We may be outnumbered, but we will never give up. We will fight until our last breath to protect what is rightfully ours. Ji Clan Elder's response is confident and challenging, his eyes narrowing with anticipation. We shall see about that. The battle lines have been drawn, and there can only be one winner in this war. Lin Clan Elder's final words are spoken with a sense of triumph and satisfaction, his voice ringing with anticipation. Let the games begin. As the three clans were embroiled in a heated exchange, Wang Jian discreetly kept a watchful eye on Su Yuding, who was conferring with the city lord to discuss the sudden and vicious attack on the Zhang clan in Qianwei town. Follow you stories at n/VELB/in.com. The city lord was taken aback by this brazen assault on the Zhang clan, who had never before faced such a dire situation since the rise of their most illustrious member, Zhang Fei. Even Meng Xiangyi, the city lord's own daughter, implored him to intervene and aid the Zhang clan in their hour of need. However, before the city lord could even contemplate taking action to support the beleaguered Zhang clan, his main clan received a letter from the Tao of Alchemy Society, the Heavenly Amulet Masters Association, and the Celestial Talismans Guild. The message threatened to indefinitely cease all business dealings with the Meng clan if they dared to interfere in the conflict between the clans. Wang Jian swiftly made his way to the city lord's mansion, and as he approached, the guards attempted to stop him in his tracks. However, the mere emanation of his immense cultivation was enough to immobilize them, leaving them helpless and rooted to the ground. Their strength paled in comparison to his, with the strongest among them merely reaching the Lord realm. Thus, Wang Jian could effortlessly overpower them, leaving them immobilized on the ground. As he approached the mansion, the pressure of his powerful aura radiated from his body, causing everyone inside to feel the impact immediately. The city lord and his associates shuddered in fear as they sensed the immense energy emanating from Wang Jian's body, causing their blood to run cold with terror. Wang Jian made his way through the halls of the mansion, his footsteps echoing off the marble floors. Finally, he reached the living room, where he found Su Yuding, Meng Xiangyi, and the city lord. With a sly grin on his face, he approached the city lord and spoke, "Ah, so you must be the illustrious city lord of this land. I have heard so much about you." The city lord, taken aback by the man's presence, replied, "Yes, I am the city lord." "And you are?" "Wang Jian," he answered, his sinister smile widening. "I represent the Tao of Alchemy Society, the Heavenly Amulet Masters Association, and the Celestial Talismans Guild." The city lord tensed up at those words, his eyes narrowing as he braced himself for whatever was to come. Su Yuding and Meng Xiangyi also looked uneasy, unsure of what to expect from this powerful cultivator. Wang Jian simply stood there, his gaze piercing as he surveyed the room. After a moment, he spoke again, "I understand that you have received a letter from the Tao of Alchemy Society, the Heavenly Amulet Masters Association, and the Celestial Talismans Guild, threatening to halt all business with your clan if you interfere in the conflict between the clans." The city lord nodded slowly, his expression guarded. Wang Jian chuckled, "Well, I'm sure you wouldn't want to risk losing such valuable allies. But don't worry, I'm not here to make enemies. In fact, I have a proposition for you." "And what would that be?" the city lord asked. Wang Jian responded, "Break all ties with Zhang Fei, including the engagement of your daughter to him, and I will ensure that our associations have a long-standing alliance with your clan." The city lord's response was firm, "I cannot betray him in such a way. He saved me from a deadly illness, and I owe him my life." Wang Jian sneered at the city lord's words. He then turned his attention to Meng Xiangyi, the city lord's daughter, and asked her with a hint of malice, "I wonder who you value more, your father or Zhang Fei?" Meng Xiangyi's expression turned into one of confusion and shock as she stammered, "What do you mean?" Wang Jian chuckled darkly and continued, "If you choose your father, then I suggest you convince him to stay out of this conflict. If not, then I'm afraid the consequences will be dire." As Wang Jian observed the tense standoff between the Zhang clan and their enemies, he couldn't help but feel a thrill of anticipation. He knew that Zhang Fei would arrive soon, and he was eager to see what would happen when the hero finally entered the fray. Despite the odds stacked against them, the Zhang clan had managed to keep their defensive array up for nearly a month. But they didn't need to hold out much longer. Within a day, Zhang Fei arrived in Qianwei town. However, his swift arrival wasn't due to his own speed alone. He was accompanied by an elderly man, who appeared to be nothing more than a humble librarian. In reality, this old man was the former sect master of the branch of Celestial Dragon sect in the Windhaven Kingdom, and his cultivation was at the peak of the King realm. Even the most seasoned experts in Arya City regarded him with respect and awe. Upon his arrival in Chenwei town, Zhang Fei made his way to meet with the city lord to discuss the situation. When the city lord informed him of Wang Jian's involvement, Zhang Fei was immediately enraged. What? How can Wang Jian represent the Tao of Alchemy Society, the Heavenly Amulet Masters Association, and the Celestial Talismans Guild? He demanded to know. Turning to Su Yuding, Zhang Fei pleaded, surely there must be something you can do to help my clan, Yutong? I have already tried my best to convince the elders to support the Zhang clan and even sent a letter to my father and grandfather asking for their assistance. However, they rejected my request and even warned me against taking any action, Su Yuding replied, her voice filled with bitterness. Zhang Fei's eyes locked onto the city lord, his voice confident as he spoke. What about you, city lord? Will you stand with my clan in this time of need? I assure you, I will owe you a great debt. The city lord's face twisted with hesitation. He had seen Wang Jian's power firsthand, and it terrified him to the core. I would like nothing more than to help you, Zhang Fei, he said, but I fear that I cannot stand against such a formidable opponent. The consequences could be catastrophic for my people. Zhang Fei's expression fell at the city lord's words, but he did not give up. Please reconsider, he said, his voice imploring. I have even brought along a powerful expert from the Celestial Dragon sect. I assure you that nothing will go wrong. The city lord remained silent, weighing his options carefully. He seemed slightly convinced as he came to know of this expert. Who is this expert? He asked, intrigued. A sly grin played across Zhang Fei's lips. Please follow me, he said, leading the group to a nearby tea house. This is my master from the Celestial Dragon sect, Huamingzhi, Zhang Fei announced, pointing at the old man. The city lord and the two women accompanying Zhang Fei couldn't help but feel a sense of awe as they looked at the old man. His eyes glinted with a fierce intensity, and his presence alone seemed to command respect. F0 Low New Chapters at nov/el/bin/.com. Before the old man could even ask a question, Zhang Fei spoke up again. Master, this is the city lord. And these two are my women, he said, introducing them to the powerful expert. The old man simply nodded in acknowledgement, but his eyes held a hint of amusement. I see, he said with a wry smile. The city lord gazed at the man with a questioning look and finally asked, if you don't mind me asking, what is your cultivation, senior? Huamingzhi smiled wryly and said, I have attained the peak of the King realm. The city lord's eyes widened in surprise as the peak of the King realm was a rare achievement. Turning his attention back to Zhang Fei, the city lord spoke with conviction, the Meng clan stands by the Zhang clan side. We will do everything in our power to assist you in this battle. Zhang Fei's face lit up with joy at the city lord's response, but inwardly he was sneering. He knew that the city lord's decision was likely influenced by the presence of Huamingzhi, the expert from the Celestial Dragon sect. In the meantime, Wang Jian received a notification from the system. It stated that there was a minor crack in the relationship between Zhang Fei and the city lord, and as a result, he received 300 destiny points. He smiled contentedly upon reading this notification. Moments later, the sound of commotion echoed through the streets as Zhang Fei arrived with a group of powerful experts from the Meng clan. Wang Jian heard the noise and opened his eyes, sensing the presence of the new arrivals. As he observed the scene from afar, a sneer appeared on his face. The city lord made a foolish choice, he murmured to himself with disdain. Despite his calm exterior, Wang Jian knew that he was in for a fierce battle, but he was confident in his abilities. He silently prepared himself for what was to come. Zhang Fei and the Meng clan experts charged towards the Lin clan and Ji clan members, ready for battle. As they clashed, Zhang Fei's fists moved swiftly and powerfully, delivering a flurry of attacks to his enemies. His first technique was the Roaring Tiger Fist, a technique that allowed him to strike with the power and ferocity of a tiger. With each punch, the air around him seemed to tremble, and his enemies were pushed back by the sheer force of his blows. As the battle raged on, Zhang Fei began to incorporate his wind element techniques. He focused his energy and summoned a gust of wind, which he directed towards his enemies. The technique was called Whirlwind Strike, and as the gust of wind hit his enemies, they were knocked off their feet, struggling to regain their balance. Zhang Fei then used the Storm Fist technique, a powerful punch that was infused with the power of the wind. As he unleashed this attack, the air around him began to swirl and coalesce into a fierce storm. His enemies were caught in the middle of the storm, buffeted by powerful winds that threatened to knock them off their feet. Despite the overwhelming odds against them, Zhang Fei and the Meng clan experts fought with incredible skill and determination. Their enemies struggled to keep up with their speed and power, and as the battle raged on, it became clear that Zhang Fei and his allies were gaining the upper hand. Wang Jian made sure to observe Zhang Fei's fighting style and could see that it was rather amateurish. He isn't a reincarnated monster then. He must have another cheat, Wang Jian thought. As he observed Zhang Fei, Wang Jian's eyes fell upon an ancient dragon-shaped ring adorning the middle finger of his right hand. This allowed him to understand Zhang Fei's cheat ability. Wang Jian had a deep understanding of Zhang Fei's cheating abilities and his combat skills. Therefore, he decided to take action. Meanwhile, Huamingzhi hadn't revealed himself yet and remained vigilant as he had heard of Wang Jian's strength from the city lord. As Wang Jian made his entrance into the battlefield, he exuded an immense amount of qi that was accompanied by scorching flames empowered by the law of flames. His arrival instantly grabbed the attention of everyone on the field. The members of the Ji and Lin clans were overjoyed as they knew that Wang Jian was on their side. On the other hand, the city lord and even the Meng clan's experts turned pale as they recalled how Wang Jian had single-handedly defeated them and entered the city lord's mansion. Meng Xiaoni and Su Yuding were both terrified as they realized that their most formidable opponent had arrived. They couldn't help but glance over at Zhang Fei, who was also looking towards Wang Jian, his curiosity turning to anger as he understood that this was the man targeting his clan. Zhang Fei, however, didn't lose all reason due to his anger. He could feel the qi emanating from Wang Jian and knew it was far beyond his own strength. After all, Zhang Fei was merely at the origin realm cultivation. Even though Zhang Fei could cross realms, he could only fight against experts in the early stages of the Lord Realm. It was absolutely impossible for him to fight against the King Realm expert. In that moment, Zhang Fei frantically looked towards his master, Huamingzhi, hoping for assistance. Your favorite ovals at n/vl/bin.com. And just as he had hoped, Huamingzhi vanished from his position and reappeared a few dozen meters away, his spear already drawn. A fierce, overbearing spear qi was emitted from Huamingzhi as he glared at Wang Jian. Who are you to target my disciple and his clan? As a King Realm expert, you should know better than to meddle in the affairs of juniors. Wang Jian chuckled, his eyes flashing with a predatory gleam. Your disciple, Zhang Fei, is nothing more than a wretched pervert who dared to flirt with my woman. He must pay the price for his actions. Zhang Fei's face turned red with anger. What are you talking about? I don't even know you, so how can I flirt with your woman? My woman is the third princess of the Windhaven Kingdom, Qiniyun. Wang Jian responded coldly. No way. She isn't your woman. Zhang Fei responded in shock and anger. Wang Jian rolled his eyes in disdain. Would I have any other reason for targeting a small idiot like you? As Wang Jian made his accusations against Zhang Fei, Su Yuding and Meng Xiaoni exchanged a quick yet significant glance. It was a silent agreement that they both harbored similar suspicions about Zhang Fei's actions. As they scrutinized Zhang Fei's every move, their doubts only grew stronger. One of the reasons for their distrust was that Zhang Fei never denied flirting with Qiniyun. This had only fueled their suspicion further. They were both furious at him for his indecorous behavior, and it only served to bolster their doubts about his character. Meanwhile, Huamingzhi's face grew stern as he contemplated the dangerous implications of this conflict. He knew that he needed to defuse the situation before it escalated into an all-out war. With a determined expression, he stepped forward and placed himself between Wang Jian and Zhang Fei. Enough, he said in a commanding voice. There's no need for this to turn violent. Let's settle this peacefully. Wang Jian regarded Huamingzhi with a skeptical gaze. Peacefully? You do realize that your disciple has wronged me, right? Huamingzhi nodded. I understand that, but I believe that there must be some sort of misunderstanding here. Zhang Fei is not the type to deliberately offend others. Wang Jian snorted. Misunderstanding? Do you really think I would come all this way just for a misunderstanding? Huamingzhi raised his spear, his body tense and ready for action. I don't know what your true intentions are, but I won't let you harm my disciple or his clan. You're a fool if you think you can take me on, Wang Jian said with a smirk. He raised his hand, and a torrent of flames erupted from his palm, engulfing Huamingzhi in a sea of fire. But Huamingzhi was not so easily defeated. He emerged from the flames unscathed, his spear pointed at Wang Jian. As I said earlier, I won't let you harm my disciple, he said in a cold voice. As they began to battle, Wang Jian launched himself forward with his origin fist, the force of the blow creating a shockwave that sent Huamingzhi reeling backwards. But Huamingzhi quickly regained his footing, summoning a gust of wind to propel himself forward and launching a series of swift jabs with his spear. Wang Jian responded with his beam of destruction, a burst of energy that tore through the air and sent Huamingzhi flying backwards once again. But once again, Huamingzhi managed to recover, using his mastery of the wind element to dodge Wang Jian's attacks and keep him at bay. In response, Wang Jian utilized his advanced flame control to imbue his origin fist with the power of flames, creating a fiery explosion that caught Huamingzhi off guard and sent him flying. As they continued to battle, Huamingzhi revealed his skills related to the wind element and spear. He demonstrated the whirlwind thrust, a technique that involved spinning his spear in a circular motion to create a powerful vortex of wind that could deflect Wang Jian's attacks. He also used the Typhoon Strike, a move that involved creating a miniature tornado with his spear that could suck in his opponent and slam them into the ground. But Wang Jian was not to be outdone. He unleashed his mystic force, a burst of energy that surrounded him in a blinding aura and temporarily boosted his strength and speed. He also used his shadow manipulation to create illusory copies of himself that confused Huamingzhi and made it difficult for him to predict his movements. Despite Huamingzhi's impressive skills and defensive techniques, Wang Jian steadily gained the upper hand. He used his Moonrise Fist, which was imbued with the power of flames, to strike with the force of a meteor that completely shook Huamingzhi's spear. Huamingzhi could feel the spear vibrating in his hands, and he had to utilize quite a bit of force to calm it down. However, he quickly counterattacked as he initially used Gale Spear Thrust to try and catch him off guard, but Wang Jian was able to deflect the attack with his origin fist. Huamingzhi then attempted to use Wind Dance to dodge his attacks, but Wang Jian's spiritual sensitivity allowed him to predict Huamingzhi's movements and land several blows. Undeterred, Huamingzhi unleashed his Cyclone Spear Sweep, creating a small tornado that knocked Wang Jian back. However, Wang Jian quickly regained his footing and charged forward with his mystic force, overwhelming Huamingzhi's defenses. Huamingzhi attempted to use Piercing Wind Strike to break through Wang Jian's attacks, but it was ineffective against Wang Jian's divine shielding iron body. Finally, Huamingzhi used Tempest Spear Assault, creating a whirlwind that surrounded him and made it difficult for Wang Jian to approach. However, Wang Jian's shadow manipulation allowed him to slip through the winds and land a devastating blow with his beam of destruction, sending Huamingzhi flying and shattering his lunar shield barrier. Despite Huamingzhi's valiant efforts, Wang Jian steadily overwhelmed him with his array of powerful skills. Huamingzhi understood that he would lose if he continued to hold back. Thus, he released his powerful spirit that possessed the potential to turn the tables in this battle. Zephyr's Edge. As Huamingzhi channeled his spiritual energy, a faint mist began to envelop him, coalescing into the form of a powerful spirit. The mist took the shape of a sleek and elegant spear, with a long and slender body that shimmered with a faint blue light. Huamingzhi's eyes glinted with determination as he grasped the spear, feeling its weight and power in his hand. He had created this spirit through years of rigorous training and meditation, pouring his spiritual energy into the spear until it became a powerful weapon in its own right. The spirit was named Zephyr's Edge, a rare spear imbued with the power of the wind. Its unique intent was called the Tempest Thrust, a devastating attack that summoned a powerful gust of wind to enhance the spear's thrust and strike with even greater force. As Huamingzhi faced off against Wang Jian, he knew that he would need every ounce of power he could muster if he hoped to emerge victorious. Gripping Zephyr's Edge tightly, he braced himself for the battle to come. As the battle intensified, Wang Jian's lips curled into a mischievous grin as he summoned his own powerful spirit to the field. A magnificent creature emerged from the fiery depths of his soul, a dark flame double-headed river dragon. Its massive wings flapped forcefully, stirring the air with a hot gust as it surveyed its surroundings. Its body was split in half, one side an intense crimson, while the other was a deep, foreboding shade of darkness. The dragon's two heads were strikingly different. One was wreathed in crimson flames, blazing with an infernal light, while the other was shrouded in darkness, its eyes glowing with a malevolent gleam. Its body was composed entirely of pure spiritual energy, giving it an ethereal, otherworldly presence. As the dragon roared fiercely, its eyes fell upon Huamingzhi's spear, Zephyr's Edge. Wang Jian felt a thrill of anticipation course through him. Huamingzhi was taken aback by the sight, but he quickly composed himself and raised his spear, preparing to do battle. The two charged towards each other, each confident in their own abilities. Wang Jian was the first to strike, sending a beam of fire towards Huamingzhi. Zephyr's Edge countered with a whirlwind, but the dark flame double-headed river dragon was too fast, dodging the attack and landing a swipe with its claw. Huamingzhi grunted in pain, but he refused to back down. He launched himself forward, unleashing a flurry of spear strikes that Wang Jian deftly dodged. Wang Jian responded with his own flurry of attacks, the dark flame double-headed river dragon's claws and fire breath causing havoc on the battlefield. Hu Mingzhi was on the defensive, struggling to keep up with his opponent's onslaught. He attempted to use his whirlwind thrust technique, but the dark flame double-headed river dragon simply blasted it away with a burst of flames. Undeterred, Hu Mingzhi tried again, this time with his typhoon strike, creating a miniature tornado with his spear that could suck in his opponent and slam them into the ground. But Wang Jian had already anticipated the move and dodged it, countering with a firestorm slash that sent Hu Mingzhi reeling. Hu Mingzhi could feel his strength waning, but he refused to give up. He attempted to use his cyclone spear sweep, creating a small tornado that knocked Wang Jian back. But once again, the dark flame double-headed river dragon was too fast, using its speed and agility to dodge the attack. Wang Jian was now in complete control, his flame burst technique blasting Hu Mingzhi with a wall of fire that he struggled to dodge. The dark flame double-headed river dragon was relentless, its claws and fire breath leaving Hu Mingzhi with no room to breathe. Hu Mingzhi tried to muster all his strength for one final attack, his Tempest Spear Assault, creating a whirlwind that surrounded him and made it difficult for Wang Jian to approach. But the dark flame double-headed river dragon was unfazed, using its own flame whirlwind technique to counter Hu Mingzhi's attack and send him flying backwards. With one final attack, Wang Jian unleashed his flame nova, a devastating burst of fire that engulfed the entire battlefield. Hu Mingzhi was powerless to stop it, and he was knocked unconscious by the force of the blast. Wang Jian stood victorious, his dark flame double-headed river dragon roaring in triumph as it dissipated into the air. The battle was over, and he had emerged as the clear victor. Zhang Fei and his comrades, including the city lord, were stricken with terror as they bore witness to the swift and utter defeat of Hu Mingzhi. They had never imagined that the seasoned warrior would fall so swiftly, leaving them reeling with shock and disbelief. In truth, Hu Mingzhi's defeat was not solely due to his lack of skills or inferior cultivation. Had he not summoned his spirit, he might have been able to endure the onslaught for a while longer. However, Wang Jian's spirit, the dark flame double-headed river dragon, proved to be a formidable opponent for Hu Mingzhi Zephyr's edge. The sheer strength and intensity of Wang Jian's spirit were too much for Hu Mingzhi to handle, eventually leading to his downfall. It was a stark reminder that in the world of cultivation, having a powerful spirit can often be the determining factor in a battle. With a sinister expression etched on his face, Wang Jian slowly approached Zhang Fei, causing the latter to take a few involuntary steps back. Zhang Fei's right hand was raised in a defensive gesture as he stammered, "Don't you dare come any closer. I'll kill you if you take one more step." Wang Jian's eyes glittered with malice as he spoke in a low, menacing tone, "Your clan is going to pay for your despicable actions today." Zhang Fei could feel a cold sweat forming on his forehead as he realized the gravity of the situation. Su Yuding and Meng Xiaoyi, who were standing nearby, watched the confrontation with bated breath. They had already begun to suspect Zhang Fei, and Wang Jian's accusations only served to strengthen their suspicions. "You have no proof," Zhang Fei protested weakly. Wang Jian's lips curled into a sneer. "Oh, I have proof. And it's all the proof I need." With that, he lunged forward, his movements fluid and controlled. Zhang Fei tried to fight back, but Wang Jian's attacks were too fast and too powerful. With a swift, fiery punch, Wang Jian sent Zhang Fei sprawling to the ground. Su Yuding and Meng Xiaoyi watched in shock as the once proud warrior struggled to get up, his face twisted in pain and fear. "Weren't you going to kill me if I took one more step? Why don't you try that threat again?" Wang Jian asked in a disdainful tone. He knew that if Zhang Fei actually possessed the power to kill him, he certainly wouldn't have stopped at that moment. There was a good chance that his master in that ring was not ready to utilize their last bit of power to save Zhang Fei. Zhang Fei coughed up a mouthful of blood, his eyes blazing with hatred as he glared at Wang Jian. "I will make sure to repay this debt of blood," he snarled, his voice thick with fury. Wang Jian merely chuckled in response, the sound cold and cruel. "You'll be lucky to even have a chance to try," he said, his eyes glittering with triumph. "Your clan's downfall is inevitable," Wang Jian declared with a fierce glint in his eyes. Without wasting any time, Wang Jian unleashed his dark flame double-headed river dragon spirit and launched a powerful attack at the barrier surrounding the Zhang family. The barrier shattered into countless pieces, leaving the Zhang family exposed and vulnerable. As Zhang Fei witnessed this devastating turn of events, fear and desperation took hold of him. He knew that his family's fate now hung by a thread, and that Wang Jian was more than capable of carrying out his threat. Wang Jian then turned his attention to Meng Xiaoni and the city lord, his eyes piercing through them like a sharpened blade. "Are you with him?" he asked, his voice cold and menacing. The city lord and Meng Xiaoni exchanged a nervous glance, realizing the gravity of the situation. They knew that their next words could determine the fate of not only the Zhang clan, but also their own lives. After a tense moment of silence, Meng Xiaoni stepped forward and spoke with a determined voice. "We are not with him," she said, her eyes locking onto Wang Jian's. Wang Jian nodded slowly, seemingly satisfied with her response. "Good," he said, his tone softening slightly. "I had hoped you would make the right choice." However, a malevolent grin suddenly appeared and grew wider as he spoke. "However, City Lord, your clan made a fatal mistake by coming here to aid Zhang Fei. It proves that you had the intention to support him from the start." The City Lord and Meng Xiaoni's faces were riddled with terror and desperation as they contemplated the gravity of the situation. Before they could even utter a word, Wang Jian spoke once again, "But if you wish to atone for your clan's sins, I shall grant you a solitary chance." He turned his attention towards Meng Xiaoni and declared in a voice that echoed through the area, "That woman must be the one to end Zhang Fei's life. If not, the Meng clan will be condemned to the same fate as the Zhang clan." Meng Xiaoni's eyes widened with shock and disgust. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Just how could she kill her own lover? But as she looked around, she realized that there were no other options. The fate of her clan lay in her hands. She had to make a decision that could either save or destroy her entire family. Observing his daughter's hesitance, the city lord hastily approached and knelt before Wang Jian. "Please have mercy, Your Highness. This man is her lover. It would be too inhumane to demand her to execute him." Wang Jian's mouth twisted into a sneer. "Very well. I shall grant her 3 days to ponder over it. 3 sunsets later, Zhang Fei shall face public execution. If she comes forth and carries out the execution, I shall not hold the Meng clan responsible. Instead, I shall bestow generous rewards upon your clan. You may even have an opportunity to establish your clan in the heartland of the everlasting mystic empire," Wang Jian declared. "What?" The city lord was dumbfounded to hear such an offer. "May I inquire, Your Highness, who are you?" "I am the 7th prince of the everlasting mystic empire, Wang Jian." His proclamation caused the city lord and others present, including Zhang Fei, to gasp in astonishment. To imagine that the prince of the everlasting mystic empire would visit their town and personally dismantle the Zhang clan and Zhang Fei. Upon hearing about Wang Jian's identity, Meng Xiaoni and Su Yuding gazed at Zhang Fei with eyes full of contempt and disgust. They were now entirely convinced that Wang Jian's accusations were valid and that Zhang Fei had indeed wronged his woman. Su Yuding, her face twisted in disgust, hissed at Zhang Fei, "You had the audacity to dally with a lady of such stature? You are nothing but a vile scoundrel." Meng Xiaoni's fists clenched tightly as she glared at Zhang Fei with unbridled fury. "You wretched cretin! I abhor you for what you have done. All of this suffering is because of your disgusting actions." The 2 women seethed with anger, their faces twisted with fury. Their elegant attire and refined features belied the rage that simmered within them. Meanwhile, Zhang Fei's heart sank as he realized the gravity of the situation. He had never expected his actions to bring about such dire consequences. The thought of losing his life was terrifying, but the disdainful looks and harsh words of those he once considered his friends were equally painful to bear. He looked up at Wang Jian, who stood tall and unmoved, his expression cold and calculating. It was clear that he had no intention of showing mercy, and that Zhang Fei's fate was sealed. The tension in the air was palpable, and the atmosphere was heavy with the weight of impending doom. Wang Jian issued a command to them, "Retreat to your abode immediately." The city lord led his entire clan, including his daughter, as they made their way back to their mansion. Wang Jian watched as the Meng clan departed, leaving him alone with Su Yuding. He spoke with a stern tone, "Your training in this branch has come to an end. It's time for you to return to the mainland." Su Yuding scoffed at his words and replied with disdain, "Do you really think your position as the 7th prince gives you the authority to meddle in the internal affairs of the Tao of Alchemy Society? Even you should know your limits." Wang Jian nearly rolled his eyes at her words. "I do not claim the right to interfere in the society's affairs," he responded. "But Xia Jiwei, a dear friend of mine, certainly can. And I'm afraid that does not bode well for you." Su Yuding snorted dismissively. "I will return to the mainland only when my grandfather issues the official order. Not a moment sooner." With that, she turned on her heel and strode away, not sparing a single glance for Zhang Fei, who stood by silently. It was clear that she was disappointed in him. Wang Jian watched her leave, then turned his attention back to Zhang Fei, a sly glint in his eye. "And what am I to do with you?" he mused aloud. In the distance, the Zhang clan was decimated and pillaged by the overwhelming force of the Lin and Ji clans. The echoing cries of jubilation filled the air as the ground was saturated with the blood of Zhang clan members. Zhang Fei felt tears welling up in his eyes as he watched helplessly while his kin were ruthlessly slaughtered. His resentment towards Wang Jian surged with an intensity he had never felt before. "Master, I implore you to end his life. I am prepared to pay any price. Please, just kill him," he muttered through gritted teeth. Wang Jian's ears perked up at the sound of those words, and he grew wary. He knew without a doubt that Zhang Fei was communicating with his enigmatic master through that mysterious ring. As Zhang Fei made his earnest request, his ring began to emit a dazzling blue light, and a mysterious figure slowly emerged from within. The figure that took shape before him was that of a stunningly beautiful young woman with flowing crimson hair that cascaded down her slender back, framing her perfect features. Her striking eyes, the color of emeralds, shone with an otherworldly brilliance that drew in the viewer. The intricate silvery threads and shimmering beads of her delicate fairy-like attire adorned her lithe figure, imbuing her with an ethereal grace. Her ample bosom and captivating curves exuded a seductive allure that could make any man lose his mind. Dressed in a delicate fairy-like attire, the young woman's attire was an intricate display of silvery threads and shimmering beads that adorned her slender form, imbuing her with an ethereal grace. And yet, the anger in her eyes was unmistakable as she gazed at Wang Jian. Turning her gaze towards Zhang Fei, she gave him a disdainful look and said, "All of this calamity has befallen upon you and your clan because you're nothing but a perverted fool who loses his senses at the mere sight of a woman's beauty." Zhang Fei pleaded earnestly, "Please, master. I am ready to change my ways. I beg you to help me one last time." The young woman gave a begrudging sigh before saying, "Very well. But remember, you are on your last chance. Fail this princess again and there will be no second chances." While this young woman talked to Zhang Fei, Wang Jian was observing her carefully. He noticed that she possessed an ethereal body. Meeting Wang Jian's gaze, the young woman spoke in a frigid tone, "Do you have any final words? Are you a spirit hailing from a higher realm?" Wang Jian inquired. "So, you are asking a question for your last words? But since you are about to die, I will answer it." "That's correct. I am Yu Qing, the Scarlet Star Slaughter Goddess." Yu Qing responded. "I see. Since that's the case, then I won't feel uncomfortable using this," Wang Jian responded, his eyes glinting as he reached into his interspatial ring and retrieved a small, white cube. As Yu Qing laid her eyes upon the cube, her pupils dilated with a mixture of fear and disbelief. She recognized it immediately, the Divine Spirit Prison, a powerful artifact from the upper realm with the ability to trap spirits. "Why, you possess the Divine Spirit Prison? How is that possible?" she stuttered, her voice betraying a hint of desperation. Had Yu Qing retained her former level of cultivation, the confines of this prison would have been child's play for her to dismantle. Explore new levels on nvelbai.com. However, in her current state, she was well aware that the prospect of breaking free from this divine prison was an insurmountable task. With a cunning grin, Wang Jian replied, "I came prepared." Before Yu Qing could comprehend his words, a radiant beam of white light emanated from the cube, entrapping her inside. Zhang Fei stood there dumbfounded, unable to believe that his otherworldly master was helpless against this man. A satisfied smirk crossed Wang Jian's face as he sealed Yu Qing inside the cube. He thought to himself, waiting an entire week in the capital for this artifact was worth it. Without it, I might have met my demise today. This artifact was unearthed in an ancient ruin located in the Silvercrest Dominion, a kingdom whose territory was controlled and managed by Bai Liqin previously and Wang Jian currently. This artifact had been kept safe in the kingdom's treasury for generations. Upon receiving detailed information from Zhang Fei, Wang Jian realized that he required this powerful treasure. He immediately ordered his subordinates to bring it to Arya City without delay. After waiting for an entire week, the artifact finally arrived in the capital, and Wang Jian wasted no time in acquiring it. With the artifact in his possession, he set out towards the Windhaven Kingdom. "Is there anyone else you wish to call upon for aid?" Wang Jian questioned with a disdainful tone. Zhang Fei maintained an unbroken silence. His otherworldly master was his final hope. "Let us depart," Wang Jian declared, picking up Zhang Fei and making his way towards his black castle. Leveraging the capabilities of the system, Wang Jian redesigned the interior of the Black Castle and created an underground dungeon. Given that Zhang Fei's cultivation was inferior to his own, Wang Jian could effortlessly suppress it, rendering it impossible for him to escape the dungeon. With haste, Wang Jian made his way to the royal palace in the heart of Windhaven Kingdom's capital, Solterra. After a few hours of travel, Wang Jian arrived at his destination, and his presence was quickly relayed to his ninth brother, Wang Lan. Despite the news, Wang Lan chose to remain in seclusion and instructed his subordinates to closely monitor his seventh brother's movements. Ignoring Wang Lan's actions, Wang Jian proceeded to the king's chambers, where King Chen of Windhaven Kingdom resided. With a grand and imposing demeanor, Wang Jian introduced himself. "I am Wang Jian, the seventh prince of the everlasting mystic empire." King Chen's expression turned wary upon hearing those words, and he replied with caution, "What brings you to my chambers, your highness?" Wang Jian took his seat on a throne placed ahead of the king and began, "I have a proposition for you, King Chen. Betroth your daughter to me, and in return, I shall grant complete autonomy over your kingdom. You shall still need to follow my orders, but I assure you that I won't try to control your kingdom. It will remain under your command, unlike the current situation." King Chen's eyebrows raised in surprise as he tried to comprehend the proposal. "What guarantee do I have that you won't breach this agreement and seize control of my kingdom?" he inquired. Wang Jian smirked, "My word is my bond, King Chen. Besides, I have no intention of micromanaging your affairs. You should be clear about how the situation regarding the Silvercrest Dominion. That is my territory." King Chen finally began to believe Wang Jian's words. As a king, he possessed a strong information network and had naturally known about the situation of other kingdoms. He had heard that despite being vassals to the royal family of the everlasting mystic empire, the royal family of the Silvercrest Dominion was flourishing. They truly held complete autonomy within their territory as they obediently served the royal family of the empire. Wang Jian leaned back on his throne, his expression unreadable. "I understand your caution, your majesty. But do not forget that time is of the essence. You have only one day to make your decision and convince your daughter to accept this proposal." The king nodded in understanding, and Wang Jian stood up, signaling the end of their meeting. King Chen summoned his most trusted council members to the royal council chamber to discuss the proposal made by Wang Jian. The council members were loyal and wise men who had always advised King Chen well in the past. He began, "My dear council members, we have been given a proposal by Wang Jian, the seventh prince of the everlasting mystic empire. He has offered to betroth himself to Chen Yan in exchange for complete autonomy over our kingdom." The council members listened intently, nodding in agreement as they heard the proposal. One of them spoke up, "Your Majesty, this is a golden opportunity for our kingdom. Wang Jian is a powerful prince, and with his backing, we will be able to defend ourselves against any threats that may come our way." Another council member added, "Not only that, but he has also promised to grant us complete autonomy. This is a rare opportunity for us to maintain our sovereignty and independence while still benefiting from the support of a powerful empire." King Chen smiled at his council members, pleased with their agreement. "I am glad to hear that you all share my opinion. It is true that Wang Jian has a fearsome reputation, but he has also shown us great generosity and goodwill." A third council member spoke up, "I agree, but we must consider the matter of Wang Lan, his ninth brother. If Wang Jian is to grant us complete autonomy, how will he handle his brother's presence in the palace? After all, if Wang Lan remains here, he might try to interfere in the matters of our kingdom and retain his control." The council members looked at each other, pondering the issue. Finally, one of them said, "Perhaps we can negotiate with Wang Jian to have Wang Lan removed from the palace. If we explain the situation to him, I am sure he will be understanding." King Chen nodded, "That is a wise suggestion. I will speak with Wang Jian and make the necessary arrangements. We must ensure that our kingdom is protected and that our people are well taken care of." Following the council meeting's conclusion, King Chen proceeded to meet with Wang Jian once again. Wang Jian had taken up residence in the royal palace, and after the meeting, he had met up with Wang Lan. Wang Lan instructed one of his subordinates to prepare a guest chamber for Wang Jian, where he waited patiently for King Chen's decision. As King Chen made his way towards the chamber to discuss the deal's conditions, Wang Lan wore a scowl on his face, having learned of the king's visit to Wang Jian. He was aware that King Chen had a discussion with his council members after his earlier discussion with Wang Jian. Although Wang Lan still didn't know what that discussion was about, he had a feeling it wasn't good for him. King Chen entered Wang Jian's guest chamber and found him lounging on a chair, his eyes closed in contemplation. Wang Jian opened his eyes as he heard King Chen's footsteps and stood up to greet him with a casual wave. Up-to-date OVLS on OVL bin.cm. Hey there, King Chen. What brings you by? He asked with a relaxed tone. King Chen cleared his throat before replying, your proposal has caught my attention, Wang Jian. But there are concerns that need to be addressed. Wang Jian leaned back in his chair. Shoot, what's on your mind, King Chen? King Chen's expression turned serious. It's your ninth brother, Wang Lan. I fear he may try to interfere with the affairs of my kingdom. Wang Jian shrugged. Don't worry about him. I've got it covered. Even Wang Lan won't be able to mess with your kingdom, trust me. King Chen raised an eyebrow. How can you be so sure? Wang Jian flashed a grin. I have my ways, my friend. But believe me, I will keep my promise and give your kingdom complete autonomy. Just make sure to fulfill your end of the deal. Very well. I shall trust your words, your highness. Just give me some more time to talk to my daughter and convince her. King Chen stood up as he left Wang Jian's chambers. After King Chen's departure, Wang Lan arrived at Wang Jian's chambers to pay him a visit. Wang Jian was seated in his chambers, deep in thought about his meeting with King Chen, when his ninth brother, Wang Lan, entered the room. Brother, to what do I owe the pleasure of your visit? Wang Jian asked, offering him a seat and a cup of tea. Wang Lan sat down and took the tea, maintaining a calm facade while his eyes scanned the room, looking for any signs of his brother's intentions. I heard you were meeting with King Chen today, Wang Lan said, his tone casual but with an underlying hint of threat. Wang Jian remained calm and collected, taking a sip of his own tea before replying, yes, that's correct. And what were you discussing? Wang Lan asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. Wang Jian gingerly set down his tea, focusing intently on his brother's cold, penetrating stare. As a matter of fact, I was about to discuss a matter of utmost importance with you, dear brother, he began with a calm and measured voice. Wang Lan leaned forward, his tone laced with a hint of venomous curiosity. And what, pray tell, might that be? Without wavering, Wang Jian replied, I require you to relinquish all power you presently hold to King Chen and vacate the palace. Wang Lan's eyes widened in disbelief, his lips parting slightly in astonishment. You want me to give up my power? And abandon my rightful place within this palace? Indeed, that is what I am asking of you, Wang Jian replied with an unwavering conviction. I aim to form a powerful alliance between our two territories, and to achieve that, King Chen must be granted complete autonomy. In an instant, Wang Lan's expression hardened, his voice taking on a menacing edge. And why, may I ask, did you choose to discuss this matter with King Chen instead of conferring with me, the rightful ruler of this territory? With a slight smirk, Wang Jian responded, the answer is quite simple, brother. I intend to marry King Chen's daughter, Chen Yan, and take her as my concubine. Wang Lan's countenance darkened as he comprehended Wang Jian's motives. The fact that his own brother requested him to relinquish his power in his own territory was outrageous enough. But when he realized that Wang Jian also coveted the woman he had his sights on, a look of contempt twisted Wang Lan's features. That's all for this video. See you all in the next video.